1. Good evening, Canby. Welcome to our April 15th, 2026 work session this evening. Tonight, we're having a discussion with BEERY, ELSNER, and Hammond LLP regarding legal services, and just some discussion on process and work done and what may be coming up here in the future. So it's kind of just, so for those of you that don't know, out in the general public, so we contract with BEERY, ELSNER, and Hammond as our legal services for the city. Most importantly for us as a city council, to make sure that we are abiding by all those things that we need to abide by and, in loose terms, keep our butts out of hot water. And so tonight we're just having a conversation, I think we have some specific questions I think that counselors have. And were those given to you guys? Or did we have any initial questions that came out? No? Okay. So I guess I'll get things going in terms of looking at, I think, the job that your firm does, I think, and specific to Emily, has been, I've had no issues with Emily. I work very, very well with Emily and with you guys as our law firm. So I appreciate all that you guys have done and helping us even now in the greater scope, but even previously is kind of like backup in some areas that we have had. So that's, I mean, just kind of kicking the ball off there. So Counselor Patton, did you have any comments or questions for
the good of the order, I guess?
Yeah.
No, I agree, you know, that I think with everything that has happened in the last several months, that we have been very well represented. I will say that in the back of my mind continues to sit back when we had this original conversation about, do we go with an in-house attorney or do we go with a firm and contract everything out? I made it very clear that as long as, because it was essentially told, it was pitched to me that by doing this method, the city would save money and have more specialized representation. And I made it very clear that when that table turns, and if more is being spent for the service than there is if we actually had an in-house city attorney, that I would start to ring bells. And that has happened very quickly. I understand that there was extenuating circumstances that led to all of that. So I can, you know, I can continue to sit on the fence and kind of watch things. But in my opinion, as time goes on, if these fees, if this still ends up being higher, I will be an advocate for evaluating either having a full-time city attorney in-house or a city attorney in-house to handle our day-to-day stuff with support from BEERY, ELSNER, Hammond, or some other firm such as that for specialized services. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of that.
Okay. Councilman Henley, anything?
I'm still stewing on things I'm thinking. So
Okay.
go ahead. I'm sure to Councilor Davis and Stearns and.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
As well. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Davis.
So thanks for coming in tonight. I'd like to start off by just asking Emily what you feel has gone well this year since you've been with us. How long now?
It's been a little over a year, I think. Was it October of 24 that we came on as full-time? Yeah, so I'd like to kind of hear from you as far as what you felt has gone well and areas that you think your firm could have improved. That's a great question. So things that have gone well, I think we've built a good relationship with staff particularly. You know, most of our day-to-day interactions, me and all the other attorneys at my firm, are with staff. You guys see me maybe twice a month for a few hours, which is great. But with staff, I think we've done a lot of good work with them, particularly with counsel. I think, you know, it is expensive for you to bring me in or one of us in to sit at council meetings each time or a lot of the times. I think there has been value there as things have come up during certain council meetings. So, my ability to help steer back on track things that may have gone off of it during council meetings, I think has been of value to the city. Things that could have gone better. I will say communication is always something that everyone can improve upon. Timeliness of communication with staff, of course, no one's ever perfect in that area, and I know that it's important for the client to hear from their attorneys as frequently as possible. With counsel, I would say probably communication as well. As Councilor Patton mentioned, there have been a few large situations for council to navigate. I think it may have been new to a lot of counselors. It was also new to me in scope. And so I've, walked away from how I worked with each of you and the council as a whole in those situations with a little bit better understanding of how to communicate next time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay. I think for the most part, we've enjoyed the working relationship with you and with BEERY ELSNER. And so like all areas, I think there's been a lot of strengths in regards to some of the work that has been accomplished. There's been some areas where, I can cite the urban renewal side of things, where there was some differences between staff and yourself in regards to urban renewal when we were in that topic of discussion. I would only ask that when, because you're new to this, you don't have, to municipal to this type of work, and you've got a lot of associates that you can turn to, and or if you don't have that expertise, bringing in those associates to deal with that topic that we're dealing with that night, because you're going to, in some of these areas, you're going to have to learn, right? And they might have already gone through the process, and especially as it relates to urban renewal and some of those topics. So perhaps as we get into a subject that there's some expertise in the firm that we can bring in to handle that particular topic, and or that you've spent a lot of time with that individual that has that expertise. So that we don't stumble as we did in a couple meetings in regards to conflict with the staff in regards to recommendations and specifically around urban renewal.
I will push back slightly on that. So I recognize I've been a lawyer for 4 years. All 4 of those years has been spent doing this type of law, but 4 years is the blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. And one of the big strengths of BEERY, ELSNER, and Hammond is exactly as you said, Councilor Davis. There is a wealth of knowledge and experience to draw upon. I'm a very risk-averse person. I think I'm one of the more risk-averse attorneys at our firm too. And so when I do encounter situations like you described where, urban renewal is not something I've been doing for 10 years, I do bring in a partner or someone who has more experience. So that's what happened with the urban renewal questions that, the council or the urban renewal agency was navigating at that time. Mm-hmm. The incident that you mentioned at the urban renewal meeting where there was, a difference of opinion between staff and me about what next steps were. And then I can't remember who it was, but someone from the fire district, spoke up and voiced an opinion on the matter too. I chalk that up to me not communicating with staff well enough what the options were so that staff could then communicate it all appropriately to you. Because it is a very complex topic, as, Jamie's done an excellent job navigating through that. So I would say in that situation, if I could just disagree and say I did work with people who knew more than I did, my error was not making sure staff understood the law in that regard. That's
fair. Yeah, that's fair. I know that we have received the cost increase from the firm. And of course, we budgeted a certain amount, and rightfully so. We had a lot of unforeseen investigations and things like that put us out of whack with the budget and things like that. But with a tight budget, and now that we have yet another cost increase, we're going to have to really zero in on how much we spend on attorneys. because our budgets are going to be extremely tight. And so I was kind of disappointed to see a cost increase coming from the firm, especially with the amount of money that we've already paid out to the firm, but like everything, we expect costs to go up, but we're also going to then have to cut back on how much we actually use on attorneys.
That's understandable, and I'll pass it to Chad to talk about the cost increase in just a moment. But I do want to make sure that it's clear to council that we are always happy to talk about cost-saving measures. We've done a little bit in the past. For example, having someone attend every council meeting, perhaps not necessary. Council has the ability to excuse someone when it's not necessary. And then one of the charter amendments we're looking at is making it more simplified to excuse people. You've got great new staff in who have their feet under them at this point. So where perhaps they have leaned on our firm a little bit more heavily as they're getting up to speed, it's not happening anymore. One of your major costs last fiscal year was that you had two collective bargaining agreements that need to be bargained. And you used me as your lead negotiator at the table. So that is a lot of time of me sitting in front of both your police association and asked me to get those done. So, and as you mentioned, so all that to say, there are things that you can adjust to make sure that your legal needs are met within your services. And then I apologize.
Thank you.
Just glad you didn't slap my hand. Council, my name is Chad Jacobs. We've met via Zoom, but it's nice to see you all in person. Just one quick point on cost savings. I'm not charging you for tonight. I'm just here to support Emily and to help you with your executive session. So
we were kind of wondering about
so you're already saving money. But in all seriousness, our firm, was founded with the idea of providing a city attorney's office for smaller cities. And we take that obligation very seriously. It's the only thing that we do is represent local governments. And when we look at cost increases, we only do it every 2 years. And we take that very seriously. We're very reluctant to raise costs. There's just a lot of factors that were outlined in that letter that sort of demonstrated why we really need to raise costs this time around. And we do try to keep that as minimal as possible. And I just want to reiterate some of the things that Emily said, but go into a little bit more detail as far as costs are concerned. Is that one of the benefits that I think you'll begin to see as you move past some of those issues that you had to work through the last year. So, when you talk about paying our firm those legal costs, most of those costs were pass-through costs. So if we're hiring an investigator, we don't take any, we're not like other firms where we take an administrative fee off the top of that. We just take their bill, pass it on to you, pay them directly. Right. We don't make any money off of that. So that's not money that was necessarily coming to our firm. But the point that I wanted to make is that what our firm does in representing lots of local communities is that we pull those resources. And so when one of your neighboring communities is already working on an issue that's likely to come before the City of Canby, because most cities deal with the same thing, you're not starting from square one with a lawyer. Emily will talk to other lawyers in her office and say, hey, who's dealt with this particular issue? And we likely have a memo, we likely have a draft ordinance, we have other sorts of things. And that sort of shared cost savings amongst our clients really helps drive down costs. So there are specific things like collective bargaining, or some of the investigations that you all had to go through that are specific to Canby. But I think as you stay with the firm longer term, you'll see a lot of those cost savings. And we're happy to work with you on other ideas, such as not coming to city council meetings. For example, I'm the primary attorney in our office for the city of Hillsborough, which is one of the largest cities in the state. I probably go to 40% of their meetings, because they just, we look at the agenda, we say, is there anything on here that, you really need an attorney for? And if not, then it's not really worth their legal budget having me attend there. And so I think when, cities like Hillsborough can do that, cities like Canby can certainly do so as well, especially with the talented staff that you have. Yeah. So long-winded way of saying, we're more than happy to work with you. And then, if it turns out that, in-house is a better fit, that's fine as well. What we really want is what's best for the city. And that's sort of that's our mentality. We do this not because every lawyer, Emily's one of the most talented lawyers I've ever worked with. She's really, really smart. And I'll take credit for that because I was one of her law professors. But that's why I recruited her, to come to our firm. And, we're blessed to have her, and we're thankful for her every day. And as she continues to grow, she's going to save the city money as well. But, the point is, Emily could be at a big firm making a lot more money than what we pay her. So could all the other lawyers in our office. But we do this because what we really care about is like the public service aspect of what we're doing. And so I'm honest when I say this, like we as a firm want what's best for the city. And we're happy to work with you in doing the analysis of like what makes the most sense. There are some cities where being in-house, having an in-house counsel does make more sense. There's a lot of cities where it doesn't make sense and it's a lot more expensive to do so. And what's right for Canby may not be right for another city. And so, we're happy to work with you all on all those issues and analyze those and know that they're coming from a place of wanting to do what's best for the city and not wanting to sort of look at our lining our financial pockets, because that's not why we're here. If we want to do that, trust me, we'd be at one of these big firms in downtown Portland working for corporations as opposed to cities like Canby.
Well, I just wanted to end it by saying I've been very happy with, for the most part, everything that Emily has done for the city. She's done a remarkable job and in some very tough situations too. So thank you, Emily, for the job that you have done. And I, for one, I like having a contract attorney firm rather than have our own attorney because, when we have our own attorney, I know many times that person has to go to a law firm that we pay money out to get the right answer, or they don't have the expertise that your firm brings to the table. So thanks for the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was also generally in favor of having, the outside law firm because there's a depth of expertise that can be there that one person can't know everything. So I appreciate that. I have a couple of things I just wanted to air out in front of the council as a council that maybe some of the frustrations that I've experienced. And a little background, I do some legal-ish work myself. So I have a different perspective. For me, I almost would rather have the attorney here at all the meetings because I found that having a good legal advice up front actually usually saves money rather than costs money. And just the other day, somebody cost them about $20,000 because whereas a quick $300 meeting with me would have saved them, and I just said, this is not, and so I understand that concept that legal assistance is much cheaper in the beginning than it is at the end. One of the things that kind of concerns me is actually this meeting itself. Apparently, if we had an in-house attorney, we could talk about some of those legal issues in executive session, but with a firm like yours, we can't. And so that sort of inhibits some of the topics of conversation that could be had. And I don't know if there's a way of working around that or being able to talk about some of the legal issues in the context of things that happen in executive session that we can't talk about, so to speak. So we have to talk about what we can't talk about, kind of thing, in open session. So that's one of the obstacles that recently brought to my attention. And for me, I always, like I said, I believe having an attorney, you use it. Not the worst thing to do is have an attorney and not use it. And if we're not able to communicate, then that can cause an issue. The other thing that and Emily mentioned this earlier, is that, and if it's her or the firm itself, seems to me to be extremely risk averse, almost to the point where I'm joking to people that it seems like your firm represents ODEC rather than represents the city. I know ODEC has positions and things, and from my point of view, since I regularly see in my, not in front of ODEC, but from the Oregon Department of Revenue, for example, they issue their opinion and we say, that's nice, but we won't listen to it because there's disagreement on what the law is, and we take it to the court. We have procedures that we do to resolve those issues, but it almost seems as if the position of the firm is never cross eyes, with anybody at ODEC. And some of the issues that I think that have been brought up seem to be kind of rather petty, especially like the meal issue, where it seems like a lot of work was doing is something that, if they're going to persecute me for eating a sandwich, I would have been happy to go in front of ODEC with the sandwich that I got from the city. And I've actually done that as a legal, I mean, it's not a legal tactic, but where I've gotten the state to back down just by threat of embarrassing them. And they backed down for that reason only, when they were being overly petty. And so what I would like to see is, personally, and I don't know what the rest of the council feels about it, is instead of saying, no, you can't do this or can do this, just something like, you can do this, but here's the risk, and the risk, my understanding, talking to a lot of people, even some people who are attorneys with other jurisdictions and stuff, that ODEC isn't, it's got more bark sometimes than bite. My understanding is basically I'm on the hook for up to $5,000 for a fine, but in my firm, if somebody came to me with a $5,000 fine, I'd say that's not even enough that we would even suggest that you fight that. It's not big compared to what I'm used to doing. So I just wanted to know what, just wanted that feedback about. And one of the big issues that comes out is, I feel like when the city attorney tells us we can't talk about this, the first thing that happens is we talk about it outside. So the open meeting laws are there to make sure everything's out in the open, but because of the way that this whole thread of serial meetings work and all that stuff, is that the conversations happen, but they can't be disclosed, and so it makes it worse. The whole idea of open meeting law is actually being thwarted because of the aggressive interpretation of the open meeting laws. So I don't know if you want to address that or not, but that's kind of what was my kind of frustration. I think I brought that up to Emily in private, but I thought it'd be good to do it in front of the council, see what the other council, maybe the other ones are more, councils are more risk averse than I am, but for me, I'm just, what happened all the time, we disagree with the state, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
First, let me premise these comments with, I couldn't agree with you more about OGEC. Our firm is routinely fighting with OGEC about their interpretations. We spent a lot of time doing pro bono work this last legislative session with LOC to get the food and beverage issue fixed, to work on the serial meeting issue, which the governor's now threatened to veto. Thousands and thousands of dollars of pro bono time that we spent working on those issues for the exact same reason that you're talking about. I think the big difference between OGEC and like working with DOR or other state agencies is twofold. One is, when you think about us as a lawyer, our client is the city as an entity. And you as the council acting as a body is one of the constituent parts of the city as an entity. So is Randy as the city administrator, so are other staff members who have authority to do things. But we represent the city as an entity. When OGEC goes after you all for violating these laws, they go after you personally. So we don't represent you in that. Matter of fact, OGEC, in one of their interpretations, has said that that would be a violation of the ethics laws if we were to represent you before OGEC. And so it's a very difficult line for us, knowing that, we represent the city as an entity. If we are giving you advice to say, go ahead and do something, that could potentially cause personal liability for you. And so that's why with OGEC, we take a pretty conservative approach. And we have always done that, because it's not really fair to you as individuals to say, yeah, I'm comfortable being subject to a $5,000 fine for these volunteer activities, being an elected official for the city of Canby. Now that may be absolutely, you may be comfortable with that, but we as an office with OGEC don't really sort of take that position, because not everyone is comfortable with that. So we're going to be pretty strict and conservative when it comes to OGEC. Now, for almost every other situation where you don't have personal liability, where it's really the city and you're making the decision on behalf of the city, our job is to just outline those risks for you, like you said. And that really is what our goal is. And if you think that we need to, if we're not doing a good enough job in saying like, okay, here's the risks and here's your options, that's absolutely something we can continue to work on. And, as the partners will work with Emily and our other lawyers to make sure that we're doing that. But that's sort of what our mentality is that you all are the decision makers and we're just here to sort of outline the risks. So you're making those decisions with your eyes wide open. That's all we want to see happen. OGEC is just this weird animal because they do take such aggressive and what I would call somewhat absurd positions, and because it creates personal liability for each of you as individuals, that we just have to take a conservative approach. And that's just sort of what we do. And you all can take that with a grain of salt. You can say, this is absurd, and I'm going to eat this sandwich, and I don't really care. And if you get called before OGEC, well, we've let you make that decision with your eyes wide open, or with your mouth wide open, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, that's really why with OGEC we take that really conservative position. And you know, I get it, and I more than feel your frustration, because I spent a lot of time arguing with OGEC staff and DOJ lawyers over their interpretation of these ethics laws, which, you know, frankly, like the food and beverage thing is, you know, in my personal opinion, one of the most absurd things that I've seen come out of a state agency in a long time.
Well, I've had experience bringing absurd things. I even got a de minimis exception from one of the judge where legally there isn't any, because
Yeah.
the DOR was being so absurd that, and so I understand that the law is a law, but sometimes everybody has,
and I
where
will,
it's like, no, you know, if you're going a half a mile per hour over the speed limit, it's not a.
Absolutely. And I will say that, you know, a lot of this stems from a change in the executive director at OGEC. The previous executive director, I think, was much more reasonable in his approach. You know, the law was the law with him, but if you look at some of the older opinions, like they you know, looked at things in a more rational and reasonable way and sort of looked at the real world impacts. The current executive director just is not like that. And I don't know why that's her mentality, but she is definitely one person who takes a very expansive view of the law, regardless of whether it's bound in the actual law itself or not. And so it's, you know, it's created a lot of problems for local elected officials, for LOC, for state elected officials. But, you know, it's the system we're stuck with.
Is there, I don't want to monopolize this, but is there any, has your firm done any legal pushback against some of the absurd things? Or
a lot of legal pushback,
because
a lot of time. And
my experience with state agencies, and I've dealt with more than one, is they do what they want until somebody tells them no.
Yeah.
But if no one tells them no, they will push it as far as they can.
And honestly, part of the problem is that when, like I said, when it gets to the point where it's actually before OGEC, we're no longer allowed to represent folks. And so, you know, we're not in that process. And a lot of people don't want to pay out of pocket for a lawyer to represent them when they know that, okay, well, my OGEC's offering me a letter of education if I just agree to a settlement agreement. So I'll take the settlement agreement because I don't have to pay anything, get my letter of education, which is basically like a slap on the wrist, public slap on the wrist, and be able to move on. And so a lot of these issues don't go to those like contested case hearings and other sorts of things that you may see with other agencies where people are willing to pay a lawyer to sort of fight that issue. It just doesn't happen very often.
Okay. One more thing, just not related to that, but one thing I was a little bit concerned me a little bit. It was some of the extra legal work that was done this last year with some costs on that, and generally, you know, in my firm, when we engage somebody and it turns out the cost is going to be higher than originally what was thought of, we usually bring in the client and explain to them that the work is increased and this is going to be higher cost, and you want to proceed or not proceed with the engagement, and you know, and I don't know that as a council we got that sort of communication that said something to the fact that this is bigger and we think it should go on, but here's the cost, and you know, let you make the decision on it or what the cost potential would be. And so that was one of the things that that was a little bit.
But can you clarify which was that, like a?
Well, I mean,
bills, or what are your?
I have to be very general because of what I said in my first thing, but it was a particular.
Can't talk about what we think.
We can't. That's the frustrating thing about this. Can't talk about what we can't talk about. But there are an instance where a particular thing that the council authorized became more expensive, or became expensive, and we talked about some of those fees being passed through on that. But it's usually nice to know, to be let know that the thing that we were doing became more expensive than.
I think I can clear that. think the easier way to say this without saying details is there were some, as you mentioned earlier, investigations that we had to do and things.
Yeah, okay.
I do not recall the council ever being apprised of what the rate for those investigators was going to be.
Or the potential
Or the potential.
bill, like the bill is going up
Yeah.
higher. So like one of my clients, if all of a sudden the bill's going up higher because there's a whole lot more work, we like, okay, let's stop and let's make sure the client is aware of the cost. going
Yeah,
up.
the staff, that's good feedback. The staff member who authorized costs in those situations was informed of like rates before we moved forward with engaging the contractors. So, you know, if future situations arise, I think that's good feedback for us all that you want a closer eye on.
Not just the rates, but, now the hours that looks like it's going to take a lot more hours. And, you know, we try to at least open up the, when I talk to my clients, I say, this is what the potential cost could be. And then when we try to keep it reasonable, but then when we all know it's going to be a lot higher, we always make sure we pause and bring them in because it's good to have to know, for us as a council to know, hey, this is going to be a higher cost. Do we still want to proceed with what was we originally authorized?
No, I agree with you, Councilor Stearns. And the authorization, if I believe I understand who the staff member was, only had a $50,000 signing authority, so it should have come before us, so we at least knew what was going on.
So, sorry if that's vague, but that's one of the reasons why I would like to find a way to get around the whole thing about we can only talk about generalities in this work session. So that was my list.
Councilor Waterman, anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate everything you guys do. I appreciate the stance that you guys take and the work that you do in the community. I personally don't remember us ever being told by you that we couldn't do something. We've always been said, I think the words have always been, we highly recommend that this is the course of action, or et cetera. So it's always a recommendation. We always have it upon ourselves to choose to do or not do what your recommendations are. And I personally don't feel like eating a $5,000 sandwich. So I appreciate the knowing what the baseline of the risk-averse part is. And again, we could always make a choice to do something different, but that's on, like you said, on us. I think for one of the things I would like to see going forward, especially with the changes in the price, and this is more of a staff thing as well too, is that forecasting part of understanding based on if you're here 40% of the time, or et cetera, because we're going to have a budget, to make sure that we really understand what services we can get within the budget that we plan to propose, and options of that, to make sure that, you know, back to whether we're going to go outside or not, because we can go outside and maybe it seems cheaper at first, but then, like mentioned, but then there's additional work that still has to go on with that, and it's still probably, you know, is it cheaper to stay with just the outside counsel? And I think that's probably a staff thing that would sort of a forecasting investigation on what that would look like so that we could see that for budget. Maybe I've already done that, but so again, I appreciate all the work you've done with us and for us. So that's all I have for right now. Thanks.
Councilor Patton?
We talked about a little bit of it, thanks to Councilor Stearns bringing something up. I do appreciate the depth of bench. And I do agree with you pushing back on OGEC. I'm glad to hear you say that you think that their overreach is ridiculous. So I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that you'll continue to fight their ridiculousness. I'm disappointed to know that position is actually appointed by the commissioners, right? I have to have a talk with somebody. Anyway, so that's unfortunate that they've hired someone who's made some weird changes. That's another issue, though. I'm not sure how I want to say what I want to say, so maybe move on and come back to me. I also would like to hear what Randy's thoughts are on the day-to-day work relationship as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll noodle my thought and then you
We'll
can
go
come
to
back to me
Councilor
again.
Patton, and then our planning committee chair is on Zoom, so I
Oh,
want to give him an opportunity as well.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on a few things that have been kind of mentioned up here. One is, and again, this is my understanding of the situation. This touches on something that you had said, Counselor Stearns. Whether we are trying to have this conversation with a firm, outside firm, or inside counsel, if we want to have a conversation during executive session, it has to adhere to a strict regiment of rules. So even one of the things that drove this conversation to an open session was because we weren't able to really nail down the specific questions that were going to be asked, and weren't able to tie those questions to a particular OR statute to be able to have that conversation under executive session. That would be the case whether it's these folks here or internal counsel. And that rule applies for when we have our reviews of our city administrator and of the judge. And so I just want to make clear, I just want to make sure that my understanding is clear that even if we were trying to have this conversation in this way with an inside legal counsel, we would still essentially.
And then that individual then has the right to require you to do it in open session if they want you to do it in open session. But if that doesn't happen, you could go into exec.
Yes, but in the preparation for that meeting, we have to at least give them some understanding of what is going to be covered in that conversation, correct? We can't just call them in here and then say, we're going to do a performance evaluation, but then all of a sudden we're going to talk about this other thing.
Well, you don't have to give them advance notice of what you're going to talk about, but it has to relate to their performance. So as
Sure.
Emily was just saying, you can't start talking about other issues that's unrelated to their performance by using that exemption.
Okay.
Because then you're sort of going beyond the scope of what the executive session provisions allow. So I would say that you are like 40% correct in your original analysis.
Okay.
Because you're right, there are certain topics that even under the umbrella of a performance evaluation that you're just not going to be able to talk about in an executive session under that exemption. There may be other provisions such as, an exempt public record if you're receiving attorney-client privilege advice that you could rely on. So if there are specific things that you all want to talk to our office about that sort of could relate to one of these other provisions, let us know and we can talk about that and analyze that specific issue. I think the difficult thing is just to go under this umbrella of a performance evaluation and say, hey, we're going to talk about all these things, because even in that context, you are limited to talking about that individual's performance as opposed to sort of like how the city is doing on this particular issue or what the city is doing, about a particular topic.
Okay, and how this kind of ties into this is, when within, I would say probably 3 or 4 weeks of joining council 3 years ago, I was involved, like several of you, in violations of this stuff. And it was a very hard lesson to learn. I don't have a lot of money to be putting towards me deciding I want to shoot from the hip and push the boundaries of OGEC, right? And so therefore, I appreciate the fact that you folks keep us in line. I also want to just say that Councilor Stearns had mentioned about different things. I want to go on record as saying I learned a lot from that experience. And I work very hard to make sure to stay in my lane and not have meetings outside with, a majority of counselors and stuff. So if people are listening to this, I work very hard to make sure that I don't do that, because I don't want that hanging over my head. It's already been hung over it once before. I don't want it to happen again. A couple of things that, and I think actually when I started down that path, because I did not understand anything about it, your firm was actually the firm I first reached out to get an understanding of just what I had gotten myself into. And I don't think it was you, Emily. I think it might have been the other Emily that I was connected with that said, we can't represent you. We can't answer any of your questions because we represent cities and municipalities and stuff. And they at least gave me a contact information for somebody who could possibly help me in this situation. So, you know, kudos to you folks for that. Now, as far as a couple of things that I've teased out from this conversation, I think, and this is some notes for staff, when we know that we're gonna have contract negotiations with the unions and stuff come up, we need to make sure that as we are doing our long-term strategic planning within our budget, that we plan for the legal fees for that year to be higher. And make sure to build that into the budget so that way, instead of just saying each year it's about this amount, we have a trigger there to say we know that there's going to be a higher amount of legal fees because of contract negotiations. So therefore, we need to make sure that we budget more in that budget cycle for that. So I think that is something important as we move forward. And something else that I've learned from this process that I hope, you know, that we do in the future is that if there is some sort of investigation or something like that, or a project that is going to take more time or require some sort of outside information, that we as a council set the understanding and the guidelines to say, we want to see how much such a thing could cost, and this is how much we're prepared to spend on it. And then if we start to get to that limit, then we need to be included in the conversation about how much more is it going to be and those sort of things. It's really on us to set the limit as the stewards of the city's budget. And I think that is something that at least I've learned through this whole process that we've gone through the last couple of years.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Planning Chair Ellison, did you have any comments or feedback for BEERY, ELSNER, and Hammond?
You're still muted, sir.
He may not be there. Okay. If he comes back, we'll clue him in. Randy, it's Council President Hensley asked too, I mean, how has been the working relationship with staff in BEERY, ELSNER, and Hammond?
It's been a great journey. First, full disclosure, I think Chad and I have known each other for over 30 years, maybe, late 90s when he was with the league. So I appreciate it's come full circle, and I think Canby is very fortunate to have BEERY ELSNER as legal counsel. They work with a lot of my colleagues in other cities in Oregon, do just an outstanding job. In fact, we're working on a share with Happy Valley. I've been talking to Ben and Steve over there, and they said that you're working on an e-bike ordinance, and that's come up over here too. So maybe there's some economies of scale that Chad mentioned earlier, because they're working on similar issues in other cities that we're facing here as well. So that is a bonus. There may be a little bit of, they report directly to you, I report directly to you, so those are swim lanes, but Emily and I consult often, almost daily. So and that's been a pivot because the city before my time, you used to have an in-house attorney, Joe, I think was his name, and department head staff could just walk down the hallway and have a chat with Joe about anything. And trust me, every day there are legal questions that come up about any decisions we're making. So we have to decide, do we need to engage the firm or not? It's a risk analysis we're taking as a leadership team. And so I have put out the mandate that nobody calls the firm until they talk to me first because of what we just went through. And so hopeful to get sort of our arms around. Now that creates a problem, frankly, because, there's deadlines and timelines, and my directors who are here tonight are faced with trying to move projects to get projects built. because they only get more expensive the longer they take. They're trying to get RFPs on the street. And so if I'm second guessing why they want to talk to legal, it slows things down. Where they could just, in the past, walk down to Joe's office. I use air quote Joe, not talking about anybody in particular. So you can see the dilemma, and we've recently eased up on that restriction a little bit because turbulent waters have passed, and we have more capacity, more budget to engage on some very highly technical. So we're leaning on their deep bench. So if Emily maybe perhaps doesn't exactly know the answer right away, she can phone a friend in the firm, right? And that's been helpful. So that's sort of the art of the partnership. You know, it's different for me. Even in my previous city, there were, Chad was 5 in-house attorneys in Beaverton, and yeah, fully paid in-house. But we still had to contract out for issues that came up. So I'm happy to take a look at part-time or in-house, but I'm here to say that 9 times out of 10, we're going to have a situation or a unicorn come up where we're going to need to reach out to somebody like the firm for expertise, right? Nothing, I'm not sharing anything that you haven't already thought of or faced. But overall, I appreciate the relationship, and we're growing together, and I appreciate the counsel Emily's provided. And I'm glad that we're beyond what we started with. And I owe a lot of that to this firm and the contracted folks that worked on it as well. So, anything else you'd like me to add?
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Council President Inslee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Randy, for those comments. That actually helps me out a little bit because first, I want to address the money saved and money spent. When we first went to the firm model versus in-house model, we were saving a ton of money. Yeah. And then all hell broke loose, pardon my French. And the costs of those things that were going on weren't fully disclosed what that was going to cost us up front. And it just kind of spiraled out of control. Also, and I feel like that we're beyond that, and also the current leadership is going to be picking up the phone at every turn. Like, you know, it's nice to know that there can be decisions made in the corner office without having to pick up the phone. So that's nice to know as well. So there was a time I was feeling like the current representation might have been a little too involved and in the chaos, and maybe had some predetermined notions or biases. So I am kind of like reserving now to see, now that the dust has settled and we have new leadership, and I just kind of want to watch and see how that part goes from here on out before I raise that flag again. I do think that in the past that was brought up about the negotiations with the unions, in the past, we had the HR director do those negotiations, and then legal gave it a look-see at the end. So it's like, here's the contract that, you know, what do you think, rather than being the actual chief negotiator. So that could be a cost savings if we go back to that model. Because that is what she did, right? And then, yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you, Brian, Mayor. So I would like to see us revisit that model and see if we can save some money there, because I know that being involved in those meetings that are hours and hours long must cost you a lot of your patience and a lot of our money. So we want to address that. I think that covers the things that I have put in my notes for right now. So, but yeah, no, overall, there's been, I have appreciated the depth of bench that's my main thing. It's like, no one person knows everything, and it's nice to know that, well, this question Emily can't answer, maybe even Chad couldn't answer, but maybe Ashley could. You know, I like having those options. That is something that having a multiple person firm versus one person in-house that would have to end up reaching out anyway. That's helpful. So thank you. That's all for right now.
Okay. Emily, Chad, any feedback for us?
Not really.
Anything we can do better, differently, good, bad, indifferent?
I enjoy working for you. It's a pleasure to come to council meetings. I like you all as individuals. I really like your staff. You've got a great staff, director level all the way down. It's been fun.
I think the biggest takeaway is communication.
Say that again.
I think our biggest takeaway for all of us is communication.
Isn't that the truth for everything? Yeah.
Well, we do like to keep it entertaining here at the Canby City Council, so, okay. If there's no other comments from the council or from you all, we are going to,
We have 10
Should we
minutes.
just double check with Matt to see if he has?
I think he's on the comp plan.
Yeah.
Public hearing that we have later.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so you're
So
trying to double duty here?
Well, I think since he was here, because I know that,
Okay.
because you
Oh, he
often,
logged in too early for the other thing?
you often
Okay.
help with the planning commission meetings as well, do you not?
I have never had the pleasure.
Oh, okay.
Ashley
Oh, the firm
Dugill
does.
may have at certain times, or Josh Soper.
Okay.
So if Mr. Ellison has things to share, we can pass them along, certainly.
Well, I think he went on hiatus until our public hearing, so.
Yeah, it looks like maybe
I think we're
he
good.
logged in too soon. He's like, wait, this isn't me? I'm going to have dinner.
Councilor Wyman, you had something else?
And kind of like what Randy was talking about, where you have to kind of gatekeep a little bit on it. Is there, do you kind of have a process in place where you have sort of triggers, like on a monthly basis? Like if we say we're good, based on our budget, we're good up to, just throw a number out, like $10,000 a month. And if you're at $8,000 based on staff reaching out to you, that you're like, a ping goes out to, say, Randy that says, hey, we're here, then he maybe only has to gatekeep for a week instead of the whole time. Do you have kind of a process like that in place?
We do, you know better than I do. See?
Yeah, we do have, depending, so our firm does a lot of what this is general counsel work. And then we get hired as special counsel. So like a city has an in-house city attorney and they need specialized assistance, they come to us. And for a lot of those specialized work, we have something called an NTE, a not to exceed amount. And so there we track that. We could certainly try to implement something like you're talking about. I can talk to our office manager to see if our software allows us to do that. I just want to be clear that it will not be perfect. It's based on, part of it's based on when people input their time into the system. And then part of it's just like, as you know, it could be dearthly quiet for 2 weeks, almost no bills, and all of a sudden an issue blows up and all of a sudden all of Emily's time is spent completely on Canby. So, sort of, saying that like, okay, we're towards the end of the month, everything's fine, and then it blows up and all of a sudden we're not fine. And so that's why I just want to be clear that like, we'll absolutely try to work with Randy to put some sort of system in place if you guys want, but I don't want to promise that it'll be perfect.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way to free up his time, not hamper our staff, but also give us a little bit of control.
Yeah, and I would also just say that, it'll be interesting to see now that the dust has settled, so to speak, how this all sort of starts playing out. If things become more normalized, that may be less of a burden for Randy than it's been over the last several months.
Council President Hensley, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, thank you. There was one more thing on my notes that I just read past, and that was the charter change that you had mentioned, Emily, that about the excusing folks. It is in our charter that we have the city attorney attend every meeting unless we excuse that attorney from the meeting. So like a couple of weeks ago, you excused the attorney. I think we need to continue doing that till we work on the language and get that charter change passed to make that easier, that process easier. Because there are meetings where there's a public hearing or some wonky new business conversation that, of course, we might want to have legal counsel present. But if we have an agenda full of second readings and a proclamation, stay home, have some popcorn, and save us a bill. And so I would like to continue down that path, and that could be a cost savings as well.
So what you could do, because the charter is inconvenient in that it says the council has to excuse, so it has to be a council action, which you do in public meetings, and if I'm here already. So what you could do if you're interested is just make a blanket excusal unless notified otherwise.
That's funny, because I actually asked if we could do that, and I didn't get an answer, so I think it just got lost in the cracks. Remember, I said, can we just say excused until further notice, and we weren't sure, but we could make that.
Yeah, I would actually probably do a blanket excusal unless city administrator feels otherwise, and city
And
administrator
then they
has
call you
authority
in.
to call them in.
Let's do that, folks. I'm going to propose that in the real business meeting.
There you go, just make a motion.
Councilor Stearns.
Just two things real quick. One is, just to this other counselors here, even though the rates went up a little bit, me working in that field, those are pretty reasonable rates for attorneys. You get a lot more expensive than that, without going too far away. So just want to say that. I think your fees are, not to give you any ideas about raising them, but still, they are reasonable. The other thing is, and this is just a kind of a general legal question. So if I have or a procedural question more than, if I have a question for the city attorney, which is Emily, and I'm not sure if she's going to be at the meeting, if she's at the meeting every night, I know I just go ask her during my time. But if she's not going to be at the meeting, is there a way that I can just say, I'm asking this a legal question, but I'm asking it in a public sort of way, not necessarily a private way, like am I going to go to jail for eating the sandwich, but the
Email.
but I'm saying, but to say I want this legal question answered in the council meeting, whether it be written or verbal, because if you're not there, then I don't know when I can ask it in a public way. I can always ask sort of a private question, like, is this legal or not? Let me know. But often I'm concerned about asking it sort of a public. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. So our clients who use this process of sort of reviewing the agenda each time and say, is there a reason to have the city attorney there? And, great example, I used to go to countless meetings where I listened to the latest Eagle Scout presentation or the local theater group doing a play. And I was sort of looking at the city council saying, do you really want to pay me to sit here and do this? I mean, it's great to listen to, but it's not really worth your money. So what we do is we review the agenda with the city manager or city administrator in advance. And we try to figure out, are there legal issues? And then the council has a process where they notify staff in advance, like, hey, I've got these questions. And a lot of times we can just answer those questions to the city manager or city administrator, who then can share that information with you at the city council meeting.
That would be the proper procedure. I would just ask
Yeah,
and say.
and so the only thing I would say is that you may need to review your council rules as you're going through all this to make sure that your council rules have that sort of procedure in place. But otherwise, that's what most of our clients do, is they just notify staff in advance, hey, I've got this question. And then that helps influence the decision by the city manager or city administrator to say, look, there's a lot of legal questions that the council has. We really need you here. Or if there's only this one legal question, Emily or someone in our office answered it for you and they're comfortable, sharing that information with you, then there's not really a need for us to be there. And so that's all just part of the analysis process as they're going through the agenda packet. And honestly, just for your knowledge, the way most of us operate is we put these meetings on our calendar. So I know, for example, every first and third Tuesday of the month, I've got Hillsborough on my calendar, and that's reserved. And they can tell me, a couple days in advance that they don't need me, and then they may call me that day and say, wait, things just blew up, we need you to come out. So we just keep that sort of locked on our calendar until we know for certain that we don't have to come, which gives you all the flexibility to say, hey, we need you, or no, we don't need you.
Just kidding, come back.
Giving Emily the gift of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, when I've got in my mind, I've got to go to a council meeting that night, and they call me at 4 o'clock and say, never mind, you don't have to come. That's great. I am not upset in the least bit.
Councilor Patton, and then we need to get into our exec session.
I have no problem with us, doing a blanket waiver for regular city council meetings, but I will never approve it for executive sessions.
Oh, I wasn't insinuating that at
And
all.
so I will make sure I would like to see that specific in there, because I will never be in another executive session with the city that doesn't have some sort of attorney present.
Okay. Noted. Thank you both. Appreciate it. If there's nothing else, I will end our work session. Thank you, Jad and Emily, for this. Appreciate it very much. For those of you that are here for our city council meeting, we have I think in my 14 years, I think we've never had this happen where we're not starting at 7 o'clock. The city council meeting will start at 7:30. because we have an exec session beforehand, so you all get the gift of time for a moment to kibitz, talk amongst yourself, go Thriftway, get a beverage, and we'll see you back at 7:30. I will take a motion from council to go to exec session.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent F, to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection.
Second,
All those in favor?
I.
All right, we will now go into executive session. We will be back in a half hour. Thank you, Camby.
Just a second.
Good evening, Canby. Welcome to our regular city council meeting for April 15th, 2026. Taxman Day. So if you haven't mailed it, there's a post office box somewhere. Okay. If you'll please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Just ask for just a moment of silence for our first responders and our men and women in service in our armed forces around the world tonight. Great, thank you. We'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Teresa, roll call of the council, please.
Councilor Padden?
Here.
Councilor Maldonado?
Here.
Council President Hensley?
Here.
Mayor Hudson?
I am here.
Councilor Davis?
Here.
Councilor Stearns?
I'm here.
Councilor Waterman?
Here. All right, we have a full group tonight. Fabulous. Randy, any staff introductions this evening?
I do not believe so. No, sir. Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right. We'll move into item 4, citizen input and public comment. This is an opportunity for council, or sorry, for the general public to address the council on non-agenda items. If you are wishing to address the council, on that podium there when you walked in are these fabulous white cards that you can fill out. Bring them to our deputy city recorder this evening. She will make sure I get it. And then you are given your time to talk to the council. You are given 3 minutes. You can buy time from somebody else. We just asked that if you can keep it to 3, that would be swell. We will do our best to address the item here this evening. If not, myself and our interim city administrator will get together and figure out if we can get it figured out or not. So I do have a stack here. We will start with Jackie Jones with the Canby Prevention Coalition and Michelle. Good evening.
Good evening.
And Jackie, you're selling your time to Michelle?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Ms. Michelle, you are good to go.
Alrighty. Hello, I'm Michelle Kutniak. I am the Canby Prevention Coalition Coordinator, and I'm here tonight to give you an update on what we've been doing and our progress. I want to start by telling you about, we did a community partner appreciation lunch and learn in March. We had about 25 community partners in attendance, some new, and we had our lunch and learn topics were, we had Chief Dale there to provide an update on community safety, including response time, and we learned that the Canby fire is doing really well comparatively throughout the country, it sounded like. We also had Anne Marie Polinago, who is the Canby School District Student Services Director. She presented on the school's new cell phone policy, which has been much stricter and requires that no phones are out at any time. And the results of that were very positive. The teachers are noting way better attention spans. The kids are reporting neutral feedback. They're not too upset about it. So yeah, that was great. And then lastly, Officer Wohlers, the school resource officer over at Baker Prairie, presented on vaping and internet safety. So that was our one of our big events. And then last week over at Baker Prairie Middle School, Officer Wohlers and I did a presentation for parents, parent education night. And he did his same presentation on vaping, nicotine and marijuana, and internet safety, what parents need to know. And I presented on risk and protective factors that are associated with substance use and what actionable steps that parents could take to protect their kids, such as setting standards within the home. What do you approve of? What don't you approve of? And kids having opportunities to feel like they belong at school, and recommending that just a lot of family communication go on. And we also provided resources that are available that parents could take right then and there. So I like to think that the parents that came left with a lot of positive information. Attendance was low. This was the first time we did this sort of event. But the school really liked what we had to provide and mentioned opportunities to continue in the future. And we're ready to come back. We're hoping to do something in the fall. And that also highlights our relationship with the schools has become a lot stronger. The Student Services Director is a regular coalition member now and has done a lot for us in terms of helping us plan events and getting the word out in the school newsletter and among the schools and helping coordinate with the school principals, et cetera. So that's been great. Oh, also we had a Spanish version of the presentation too, and that was put on by Todos Juntos, Fatima Lopez and Anthony Cervantes, who are in the school prevention specialists available to help. So I just wanted to make sure and give them some credit for that. Lastly, on the horizon, there's lots of summer events where we're going to be promoting substance use education for parents, resources for parents. Bridging Cultures in town is putting on 4 Saturdays in the Park. So we plan to be at a couple of those, as well as a Thursday night market. And yeah, we just wanted to kind of come here and just let you know what we've been doing. We've been busy, and we hope to keep the momentum going, and we hope to see you at some of those summer events. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for the update. I know you guys, that the group has grown and there's a lot of work being done. So thank you both for the hard work and getting promoted or promoting the group throughout the schools and with parents, because it is a big deal. And I will say I do appreciate the new cell phone rules at the schools. My son, who's a junior, has been busted twice. And so, cell phone jail. Yes, he's pretty close to being in cell phone jail, which I would not be opposed to. I think it would do him some good. So, oh, yeah, see. So thank you both very much for all the hard work that group is doing here in Canby. So thank you.
Thank you for your continued support as well to all of you.
Oh, absolutely. It's been great.
I would like to say Officer Wohlers is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
I've worked with him on numerous occasions. Officer Wohlers is amazing. There, we said that out loud. I've worked with him on a couple occasions, and as far as the vaping and the internet safety is concerned, him and I have gone back and forth on that quite a few times about different ideas of what we can do. So I'd love to see that this is actually moving forward.
Mm-hmm. He's a great partner to have.
Yes. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, I have to turn on my microphone. Next, Darla Mead regarding candidate for State Rep House District 51. Hello.
Hi. I just wanted to come by tonight, introduce myself to the council and mayor.
If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
So my name is Darla Mead. I'm running for House District 51. That includes Canby. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm an oncology nurse at OHSU. I do navigation for lung and head and neck cancer patients. I've worked at OHSU for almost 14 years. It's all been in oncology. I've become very frustrated with what's happening with our healthcare system and with my patients consistently and even increasingly having challenges with insurance, trying to get the healthcare they need, get it covered. I have patients that struggle with getting the care they need, or I should say, they struggle with making the decision between getting the care they need and risking financial devastation for their families. Or in some cases, we have patients that are in challenging social economic situations, and they really just can't even entertain the concept of trying to get cancer treatment when they're just worrying about where they're going to live and how they're going to eat. So those motivated me to get involved in this and to try and get into Salem, see what I can do to improve that situation. That, of course, is my first priority in doing this. I want to improve the healthcare system. I think one of the things that we're looking at, and I actually became aware of when I got into this, was that Oregon is trying to work on some sort of universal healthcare program. From my perspective with my patients, I'm absolutely 100% for that. I've seen the economic value and opportunity that presents in helping us keep our hospitals open, potentially open more clinics in our rural communities. So I'm hoping that that's going to have that influence as well, in addition to taking that burden off of our patients. I'm also a huge advocate of Oregon. I'm born and raised in Oregon. I grew up, if you know where Clackamas Fred Meyer is, I grew up right across the other side of the freeway from that. Being a longtime Clackamas County resident, I'm very familiar with all of the changes that have occurred in our community. And while I recognize that we want to see economic growth in our communities, we also very much value these small town communities, the feel, the charm, the uniqueness of our small towns. And we don't want to lose that. We want to improve our towns, but we don't want to turn them into Portland, right? And so that is my emphasis when I'm looking at economic development and improvement. I want to keep that at the forefront.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next is Nicole Bassett, candidate for state senate in Oregon. Is there an election coming up? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
There is, yeah. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak with you. My name is Nicole Bassett. I'm running for Oregon State Senate District 26, so spanning from the Dalles all the way out here to Canby. I'm a business owner and I'm a community member in Hood River. And so the past 20 years, I've worked in a unique intersection between business and social and environmental responsibility. I led initiatives for companies like Patagonia and Prana, and I've consulted from companies all the way from Nike to Target on how do they do business in an ethical way that does not harm people or the planet in their supply chains. And I started a company in 2015 in Cascade Locks, went from an idea, dusted off a business plan, and grew the company about 45 people in Cascade Locks. We had another facility in Amsterdam, 80 people. And so I know what it's like to start a business in a small community and create jobs. I think we're headed into some really unknown territory in the future. I know the state has been underfunded for decades, and we need people who understand how the economy works, what they like how it trickles into, it implements for business owners, and how we can respond to the moment. And so that's why I'm running for office. In my spare time, I'm out biking and hiking. I also am a hospice volunteer. I sit with people at the end of their lives, and it's really been what's inspired me to say, like, okay, there's not much time. We got to I really want to step up and serve. So I want to bring that experience and those skills to policy and to Salem and advocate. I grew up in a small community, rural, and I know how important it is to have that rural voice, and I think that's something that's been missing in Salem, a real strong advocate for the residents here. So I would welcome the opportunity to follow up with any of you. I may reach out. I really want to understand more and hear more and learn how I could be the best senator for the residents here in Canby. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Good luck. Okay. Teresa, is there anyone online this evening? Okay. The only other card I have is Mr. Manuel, which is for the later agenda item with our comp plan, so I will come back to you on that one. Great. Item 5, we do not have any proclamations or special presentations. Item 6, I don't think there's anything to remove from the consent agenda because it's just the notes. I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the March 11, 2026 City Council special called meeting and Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes and the March 18th, 2026 City Council regular meeting minutes. And I have a question after the second. My question is, that Urban Renewal Agency meetings, don't those have to be approved at the Urban Renewal Agency meeting?
In previously, yes, those have been approved at just in special urban renewal agency meeting. So I
can check on that.
So
I think for now we should just remove that piece and include the minutes for the March 11, 2026 City Council special meeting and the March 18th City Council regular meeting. Councilor Maldonado was the second. Do you agree with the amendment?
I agree.
Okay. So it's been moved by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the March 11th, 2026 City Council special called meeting and the March 18th, 2026 City Council regular meeting minutes, and holding over the Urban Renewal Agency meeting notes until we have further detail and or a scheduled urban renewal meeting. Any comment or question?
My only comment is I apologize for not catching that until I read it out loud. Sorry, Randy.
Fine.
Okay.
All feedback is welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, carries 4-0. Item 8, we have no appointments to make this evening. Item 9, ordinances and resolutions. So we're going to, first up is consider ordinance number 1666, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to enter into an agreement with Xylem Water Solutions USA to purchase 4 raw influent pumps in the amount of $93,602. And it is for second reading. So yes, Councilor Patton.
So recently we made some changes to our policies and operating guidelines, and all these second readings, as long as there wasn't a nay vote in them, were essentially to be consolidated under a slate of them so that to speed things up. So I'm going to give this a try. So strap in, folks. We're going to try something new.
Awesome.
I move to approve ordinance number 1666, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Xylem Water Solutions USA to purchase the 4 raw effluent pumps up to the amount of $93,602. Ordinance number 1667. And
let him do he's doing his motion.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm doing a thing. And ordinance number 1667, an ordinance, just give me a minute. An ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to enter into an agreement with 3J Consulting regarding the UGB expansion and code audit. And ordinance number 1668, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an amended employment contract with the interim city administrator, Randy Ely, as a slate of ordinance approvals on second reading with a roll call vote.
I second that motion and want to reiterate, in case people on the dais here have forgotten. If you don't agree with one of these and you want it pulled from the slate, you can do that now. Or we can just do roll call vote and it counts for all of those ordinances. It's a time-saving measure that we put into the policy.
Okay. And I totally appreciate that and understand that. This was a conversation that Randy and I did have about this, that these would then be put under the consent agenda for approval.
But it's a roll
Correct.
call vote. That's why we didn't do it, because we don't roll call the consent agenda. And there was a point, that's how, and we approved, as a body, we approved the new policies.
And I'm not disagreeing with what was approved and what was not approved by the council. It just, I think a refresher before launching into it would have been better. That's my 2 cents. Randy, you have something to say?
No, we did ask this is ringing a bell. We asked for clarity from legal counsel under which section this takes place, and it's under, as it's been done tonight. It's the correct section. It's
Okay,
not the
that's
consent
fine.
agenda. And that's on me because last time we talked, which was Monday,
Yes.
I had told you consent agenda, I think, because that's what we were asked from a counselor during council questions. Shouldn't these be under the consent agenda? So I had to do a little digging, and the way you did it tonight,
Is the appropriate.
appropriate
Protocol. Okay.
per legal counsel advice.
Okay. Does anyone have a problem with item A, B, or C being removed from the batch motion?
No, but I will ask if any of the directors present have anything they want to add to their presentations from before. Then I'm good.
Okay. I guess a roll call vote then.
Counselor Patton?
Aye.
Counselor Maldonado?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Counselor Davis?
Aye.
Counselor Stearns?
Aye.
Counselor Waterman?
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Item D, consider ordinance number 1669, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of server and storage equipment through Polar Systems utilizing a state of Oregon price agreement in an amount not to exceed $100,000 and declaring an emergency first reading. And Mr. Wood, I think that is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, just one minor correction. It's not the Oregon State price agreement. We actually got 3 bids. So that should say, yeah, we're not using the Oregon State price agreement. Originally, we were going to, but we can get it cheaper through Polar by getting 3 bids versus going through the Oregon State price agreement. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
So we followed the procurement law and got 3 bids on this. To make this somewhat brief, the servers have an average lifespan of 5 to 7 years. The PD servers, there's 2 of them. One of them expires this year, the other one expires next year. So we need to replace them. One of the ways we've talked about replacing them, and I think this is probably the best way to replace them, is to replace the servers and then pull the actual storage out of the servers and make it its own separate rack, which is called a SAN system. It's a high-speed system that's very robust for the police department, but it's a very expensive system. In order to do this properly, I have to buy it all at one time. I don't have a way to piece this out because we need to pull it out, we need to move one server, then get the storage in place, move the server to the storage, and then put the other server in. So it needs to kind of all happen at once. This is just to buy the hardware. And I'm hoping I can buy it for $100,000. If you know anything about the computer market, the prices are going through the roof at a speed that most of us can't get our hands around. I've gotten 2 bids in the last month. One was $100,000. The last one I got was $84,000. By the time this goes through, it probably won't be $84,000. I'm hoping it'll still be under $100,000, which is why the emergency clause is in there. Because the longer I wait, the more likely I am to pay significantly more. I've been told that it's possible it could go up as much as $50,000. And then I'm going to have to come back.
Oof, okay.
They call it, what do they call it, Ramageddon? Because it's AI needs memory, and it's eating up memory. And so the price, if you buy anything with memory in it, the price is through the roof, or if you buy anything with a video card in it, the price is through the roof, and that's because of AI. And so this is a very unstable market. If I could buy it at the $84,000 I put in front of you today, I would do it, but the charter doesn't allow me to do that. So I have to come before you. So this is what we like to do with the PD. We think it's the right move. We think it's a better move for redundancy and long-term storage at the PD. They're faster servers, they're more robust, but it's expensive. The install will have to come next budget year because I only have $100,000 set aside just to buy the servers.
Okay. I think I amended the motion well enough, if we want to make that before we have discussion.
Any questions for Mr. Wood? No, you being the tech guy. Yeah.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
If Paul doesn't have any questions, I'm good. I move to approve ordinance number 1669, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of server and storage equipment in the amount not to exceed $100,000 to second reading May 6, 2026, And declaring an emergency. I said it.
Second.
Motion has been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1669, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of server and storage equipment through Polar Systems in an amount not to exceed $100,000 to a second reading on May 6, 2026, and declaring an emergency. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Oh, I forgot to say aye. Sorry.
That carries 6-0. Thanks, Todd. Next this evening is a public hearing. This public hearing is to discuss the City of Canby's comprehensive plan and comprehensive plan map changes. That'll be Don Hardy and friends. So the matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. This public hearing was noticed, and those who wish to speak were instructed to contact the city recorder, and we did not receive any online requests to speak. Okay.
There actually is a person, Matt Ellison, our Planning Commission Chair, is online, and he does want to testify.
Okay. I will make note of that. Thank you, sir. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your virtual hands or your real hands. If you've turned in a card, Mr. Manuel, yes? Mr. Ellison, are you on? Maybe he'll join us when we get there. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access.
There he is.
All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. There will be a staff report by the illustrious Don Hardy. Questions, if any, by the hearing body or staff. I will then open the public hearing for testimony. Proponents, so those that are for, will be given 3 minutes, and any opponents to the in the hearing will also be given 3 minutes. Mr. Ellison, are you a pro or con for the comp plan? Matt, can you hear us? It does not seem that Matt can hear us.
Zoom share is muted. Is that why or not? That's outside of my pay grade.
Don, can you reach out to?
I have a cell number.
Thank you. So.
Ask him if he's got his computer muted.
A decision shall be, I will then close the public hearing. We'll have questions, if any additional ones by the hearing body, and then discussion by the hearing body. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedures of the hearing? Okay.
Mr. Ellison does not have any, he can't hear what we're saying. I can put him on cell when that time comes, if that works.
Okay. Is he a proponent?
He's a proponent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know. Okay. We will open up with the presentation. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, from the top here, Don is going to take it away. This is an enormous, sorry if it's too loud. Is everything okay back there? Enormous slide deck that we're going to walk through tonight, and you guys have been working on updating the Canby comprehensive plan for a very long time. So I did receive council questions if we could, from the top, big picture, highlight major changes tonight that we're going to walk through, just for your own edification. As you're getting into the slide deck, you should feel free to ask questions throughout. Don's prepared to look for verbal cues from the mayor if there are questions. This is one of the longest slide decks I've seen since I've been here. There's a lot of information, but you're updating a comp plan from 1981. 1981, let that sink in, and there's a lot to cover, but, so, I'll stand.
A few changes.
Yeah.
45 years
I'll stand down and pass to Don.
Thank you, Randy. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Steve Faust from 3J Consulting, and I will be doing the presentation tonight. And I wanted to start out, there is a PowerPoint that we'll bring up for this, but I did want to start out, there was a question that was asked by Councilor Stearns, which I think is a really important question through Randy, and to talk a bit about the comparison of the 1981 comprehensive plan and then now 2026 comprehensive plan, and what are the substantive changes. I am going to try to boil that down because we could be here literally all night going through the detail of this, but I would like to give an overview, and hopefully that helps in the context here of the last 3 years and where we've been in the last 3 years, and doing other plan things that you've seen before you, I think will help in context. So we have a 45-year-old comprehensive plan that we will be updating. Obviously, new demographics and growth information on projections are a part of that. Updated histories and policies are part of that. And in terms of the things that you all are aware of that have been adopted through City Council, it is reflective of these items: the historic preservation plan, the housing needs analysis, the housing production strategy, housing efficiency measures, economic opportunity analysis, and natural resource preservation through the statewide policies, which it has to be in there, and environmental hazards and prevention of environmental hazards, updates on transportation and the transportation system plan policies, and utilities. So that's kind of a comprehensive overview to an extent of this is an embodiment of all those items in terms of policies. So these chapters, these 12 chapters that are part of the comprehensive plan, I'm going to go through those fairly quickly, which will give highlight to the main thrust of each one of those. So chapter 1, which is citizen involvement, this is about more articulation of policies related to supporting community engagement. Also with focus on the Planning Commission and their role continuing in the position of being the body to review long-range planning and city planning programs. Council's also involved, but that group has that focus. Chapter 2, land use planning, is focused on the importance of to reflect the adopted housing needs analysis and housing production strategy policies related to housing and forecasted need based on projected population growth in the city. Chapter 5, which is the open space, scenic, and historic areas and natural resources, is a reflection of that natural resource preservation and the Canby Historic Preservation Plan. We spent a lot of time with the chair and vice chair of the Historic Landmarks Commission and walking through that process and making sure that the policies are reflected in the historic preservation plan are reflected in the comprehensive plan. Goal 6, which is air, water, and land resources, is reflective of stormwater, air quality, and noise mitigation related to those items. Goal 7, subject natural hazards, disasters and hazards, is reference to the Clackamas County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, and the new federal floodplain standards are keynotes in that section of Chapter 7. Goal 8, which is Chapter 8, is recreational needs, and there's a significant emphasis on pulling all the substantive parks master plan policies into the comprehensive plan. Goal number 9, which is Chapter 9, is the economic development chapter, and that mirrors the economic opportunities analysis, which you all have reviewed and has been through the adoption process through council. Goal 10 is a reflection of the housing needs analysis, housing production strategy, and housing efficiency measures, which have all been adopted through City Council. And Chapter 11, Public Facilities and Services, references city public services and Canby utility services. Goal 12, Chapter 12 is the transportation chapter, and that reflects the transportation system plan policies that are, you all have seen it's not been quite adopted, but that will be before you on May 6th. Goal 13 is the energy conservation, and that reflects job housing balance to reduce commuting and those kinds of issues related to transportation, and promoting infrastructure to reduce travel congestion. Goal 14 is urbanization, which is Chapter 14, and that references back to the forecasted need for housing through housing needs analysis and the economic opportunity analysis, and reflects the goals and policies of that. And again, this is not I can go into more detail on the specifics of the policies in the comprehensive plan, but essentially this 1981 comprehensive plan has been updated through these adoption processes that we've gone through, that essentially we're referencing those policies in the comprehensive plan. So it's consistent with those policies that have been adopted over the last 3 years. And that's really the forward direction of the city. Lots of changes in 45 years. And DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development, asked the same question as Councilor Stearns. And we did have a summary in our staff report of kind of generalizing where those changes were. And they really understood as well that most of this is being changed. There's not a lot in the current comprehensive plan that is not being affected here, and given the time frame that's gone by. So I'm going to stop there. Hopefully that gives some additional context to the question.
Yeah, I mean, I just, for those who don't, I mean, like I say, we had this, and thank you for all this. It's a lot of work, and I did read through the plan. I just wanted to indicate, like, before we adopt this, if we adopt this, we have this other plan, and now we have a new plan. So what does that make the city now able to do that it couldn't do under the old plan? And that was just kind of a question to ask, because we've gone through all this process and we got something new, but how is that going to benefit the city having this new one versus the 45? The fact that it's old, I mean, some things like cheese and wine get good with age, but maybe comprehensive plans don't.
So the individual, like, for example, addressing the policies from our housing needs analysis, and maybe just one small example would be promoting planning that is like plan unit development, which is in looking at open space and planning for open space and having a diversified housing portfolio that in 1981 was different than what we have today. So
now we have more options because of this.
We do, absolutely. And those would be because of all the things that you all have seen that we've adopted through the council previously. It's really an embodiment largely of those already adopted economic opportunity analysis, housing needs analysis, housing production strategy policies that were already adopted in there. So to your question, it's really about bringing us up to speed with what we're required to do through the state process already, which we've really embodied. So it brings us up to speed. We're required to have an updated baseline for all of our information. It has to be factually accurate in terms of where we're at. So it really has brought everything up to the current situation. When you all were going through each of those individual plan review processes, that kind of fits into a big puzzle here, which is like all 12 chapters are influenced by those decisions that were made previously. So really, there's not a lot you have not seen. I know it's been in isolated adoption processes, but they're now, all those pieces are now together into one comprehensive plan.
So, Don, between the last one and this one, how many comp plan amendments were done?
I believe I know there was like an amendment for, there was a small amendment, and this is for the area, like the special area J, there was an amendment that did talk, and these are very like few sentences. It was not a holistic update. So they used the 1981 base plan, and then they just added text to it. And so really it was not a I mean, they probably went through post-acknowledgement, but they were very minor changes. And they, like the chapters, and they would just make a few sentences. I'd say there is probably less than a page of text changes overall in the last 45 years.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right, sir.
So I'm going to continue. So that I'm hoping this also kind of frames this up so I can maybe get through this a bit quicker here. So approval criteria, and these are items that we have to address as part of our comprehensive plan process, that the City Council and Planning Commission are reviewing this, and that we're making the following. We're judging that these need to be consistent with this. So I'm going to go through each of these individually. The remainder of the comprehensive plan of the city and the plans and policies of the county, state, and local districts, that there's consistency to preserve functions and local aspects of land conservation and development, a public need for the change, whether the proposed change will serve the public need better than any other change which might be expected to be made, whether the change will preserve and protect the health, safety, and general welfare of residents in the community, and statewide planning goals. So the approval criteria, the first one is the remainder of the comprehensive plan. And again, a lot of what I just said about the consistency here with state and county, we obviously have to be reviewed by Clackamas County. They're aware of this. They don't have authority over the area within the urban growth boundary, but they are aware of what we're doing, and we're working with them. This is consistent with State Department of Land Conservation and Development processes. They've been very involved with the comprehensive plan update and have reviewed the comprehensive plan draft and provided commentary. So in local district planning, we incorporated Canby Utility into our review, and consistency. Of really essentially local. We've done a local embodiment for consistency, and also related to all the prior adoption of the plans that I mentioned previously. It's consistent with that. Approval criteria 2, a public need. Again, I think the public need, the strongest element is that it's been 45 years since this has been updated. And there's been also considerable significant community outreach over the last 3 years on this, six community summits, online surveys. There's been kind of local meeting areas where we've done like pop-up things where we've had community events, and I can go into more detail, but there's been a robust amount of outreach on this comprehensive plan update. Whether the proposed change will serve the public need better than any other change, and part of that community outreach was a community visioning process and also a mapping process that included all the input from the community, which we consolidated into mapping, which we believe the comprehensive plan update that we're doing is reflective of that. Whether the change preserves and protects the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents in the community. We believe it is reflective of adopted plans and elements, and preserves and protects health, safety, and general welfare of the community, and it is a reflection of community input. I'm going to turn it over to Steve to go through the statewide planning goals. And these are, again, kind of highlights. We're not going to go through each individual one, but just kind of overall the themes of this.
Thank you, Mayor Hodson, Council President Hensley, and councilors. As you know, the comprehensive plan is your long-range plan that guides future growth and development in the Canby urban area. Just to recap kind of what is included, we started with a background report, all those documents that Don mentioned, the information, the policies, all of that goes into this comprehensive plan. Unlike cheese and wine, the comprehensive plan does gets old after time, and as your population grows, you have new ideas, new experiences. That all went into the community vision that guided the work to develop goals and policies, update the comprehensive map, which Don will speak to in a little bit, and then ultimately bring it all together for the comprehensive plan, which is then implemented through a variety of tools like the development code, zoning map, annexation of land, urban renewal plans, capital improvement plan, and other city plans and programs. Don mentioned community engagement. There were 5 summits. We had a project advisory committee that met 5 times, a technical advisory committee that met 3 times. We did numerous briefings with you and the Planning Commission, held community conversations, and we're at events like the Farmers Market and other events to talk with folks, and then online engagement opportunities as well. Oops. So unlike, Don laid out for you the changes, kind of big picture between 1981 and 2026, my focus here is we brought this draft comprehensive plan to Planning Commission and City Council in the fall. You can see some of the dates there. We also got comments from both bodies. We also got comments from the Department of Land Conservation and Development. We then went to a hearing with the Planning Commission on March 9th. They recommended it for approval unanimously with 2 minor additions that I'll mention this evening. So my focus is really going to be what are those changes that we've made since we first brought it to you in the fall. Some of it might look familiar because it's things you talked about, but I'm going to go through this very quickly. For citizen involvement, we clarified that citizen involvement efforts should be designed to reach all Canby community members. That was a request to the Planning Commission. The city will strive to make meetings accessible, including translation services with advanced request. That was the addition there. We also added a strategy for city staff and Planning Commission to review the comprehensive plan. It did say at least every 10 years. Planning Commission recommended every 5 years. I just want to note that is for city staff and Planning Commission to review that comprehensive plan, not necessarily to update it, so they felt comfortable recommending shortening that time period to 5 years. For land use, we added language preventing, minimizing, or mitigating conflicts between land uses. This was a big note from the community about noise and light pollution, as well as traffic impediment and impacts. You'll hear that again throughout this presentation. We modified language to encourage the preservation of downtown urban form through overlays and historic preservation. Another thing you'll hear quite a bit is we've integrated policies from the historic preservation plan, but also worked with Planning Commission and the Historic Landmarks Commission to consolidate that, because there were a lot of policies and it was kind of overwhelming the document. So we've consolidated that quite a bit. We modified the language to encourage areas of higher density rather than ensure, and replaced the term land use map with comprehensive plan map to distinguish that from the zoning map. For goal 5, we added language to the factual basis about soils, wildlife habitat, groundwater resources, and pre-settlement history in Canby. One of the things I didn't mention earlier is that all the new information that we have as the city's grown and changed over time, that in the eyes of the state is the factual basis that we need in order to make new policies that respond to these changes and to community desire. So that's what that background report is for, is establishing that factual basis to change policies and make new policies. We reduced, consolidated, and clarified content from the Historic Preservation Plan, added mention of the Historic Landmarks Commission and its role, and added information about the Historic Preservation Plan to be adopted as part of this comprehensive plan update. Although, Don, I believe the comprehensive plan takes precedence over that Historic Preservation Plan?
Yes, there was an intentional vetting of the goals and strategies of the Historic Preservation Plan. So this comprehensive plan, in concert with HLC chair and vice chair. So this plan, because there was a reference back to 1981 comprehensive plan when that historic preservation plan was adopted in 2020, there was a large amount of reference back to policies, et cetera, that were from 81, which have now been updated to reflect in our comprehensive plan, that we've lifted them and also updated them in concert with HLC. So it's part of it.
Okay. Through our work and consultation with DLCD, it was noted that the Canby Wetlands and Riparian Inventory, while approved by the city and I believe by some at the state, it was not approved by the Department of State Lands, so that local wetland inventory for the city is still going to be needed at some point, and I know Don and his team have that in their plans. We added information about how riparian areas and wetlands are protected through overlay zones and added language about adopting floodplain regulations consistent with the recent Oregon FEMA biological opinion. In Goal 6, we strengthened policies to address, again, those noise and other nuisances. Goal 7, regarding natural hazards, we added a policy to require more than one ingress and egress for evacuation in and adjacent to natural hazard areas. We added language about using the Canby Public Works design standards to ensure safety for development of steep slopes. And through conversation with DLCD, did some rewording of natural hazards, goals, and policies, just language changes. Goal 8, recreation needs. We fixed the city standard to read a minimum of 10 acres of developed parkland per 1,000 residents, which is the city policy. We added a policy for the city to identify and pursue grants for park development and maintenance, and modified one strategy to refer to creating a parks funding source rather than necessarily a parks district. Goal 9 for economic development. Again, we made some changes relative to the to integrate those historic preservation and policies and consolidation. Goal 10 for housing. We removed a strategy related to encouraging compatible design. We added some language related to fair housing. We added a strategy to encourage medium and high density residential zone designations in areas being annexed to the city. And we added a strategy to develop sufficient utility capacity to accommodate growth. Goal 11, public facilities and services. We added a strategy to notify DLCD when updating adopted public utility plans upon their request. That was a request to make that change. We modified a strategy to provide clarity on annual budgeting. We added a strategy to modify the SDC schedules with scaled charges based on home size. Added a strategy to coordinate with the Canby School District on long-term facility planning, and updated the plan with new information from Canby Public Utility. Goal 12, transportation, coming from the Transportation System Plan. We added more information about Molalla Forest Road Trail. We added language to make some policies coming from the TSP a little more specific to Canby. They felt a little bit generic. So we added some specificity. And then per request of the Planning Commission, we added a strategy to monitor progress of transportation system plan investments, including long-term projects that connect outside of Canby. They were specifically concerned about, what was the term, radius roads to connect Canby to other communities. Goal 13, energy, we removed and modified language, again, regarding historic preservation. We added a policy to address electric grid issues. We removed references to electric vehicles and broadened the strategy about solar panels to include alternative generation sources. And then finally, goal 14, we removed, again, strategies referencing historic and cultural resources that are shown elsewhere. We added or modified information about the Clackamas County City of Canby Urban Growth Management Agreement and management of urban growth areas, and then added a strategy to notify DLCD of annexation and urban growth boundary amendments. One other addition is we're adding, Don mentioned all those plans that are referenced in the document or went into the document. We're adding a one-page appendix that lists all of those plans so people can see, can go to those for more information on any of these topics. And I'm going to hand it back to Don to talk about comprehensive plan map changes, but also happy to answer any questions when the time comes.
So their comprehensive plan map changes are pretty minor in this process. There's a number of cleanup comprehensive plan items that we'll go through first, and the only major more major comprehensive plan proposed change is to Area J, which we have talked with council about several times in work session. The cleanup items probably are really more in what I would categorize as Scrivener's errors, because there's a mismatch on the comprehensive plan designation to the underlying base zoning. And just to be clear here, we're only talking about the comprehensive plan, not the zoning of the property. So I'm going to go through these individually. The first property is off of Knightsbridge Road, and I'm going to go through the details of this a bit more, and the air photo is a bit more helpful. And so this property is zoned low-density residential. It is comprehensive plan designated medium-density residential, but it is highly constrained by overhead utility lines, 100-year floodplain, and the home there takes up most of the property. So staff felt that the underlying zoning of R1 is more reflective of what that should be, and the comprehensive plan designation would be more appropriate as low-density residential versus medium-density residential for consistency purposes. So that's the first map item. Second one is in the area that is, we're calling Area 10. And this area, I'm going to get an air photo here, is largely built out. In a similar circumstance appears there, which is the property is zoned low-density residential, is pretty much fully built out as low-density residential, and is actually comprehensive plan designated as medium-density residential. We feel that the low-density residential build-out of the site should reflect the comprehensive plan designation of low-density residential and not medium-density residential, because there's really no potential for expansion of houses in this area. So the next item, yeah.
So just as a perfect example, I mean, so why does this change apply here but not in the housing area in my screen to the left? You know, Northeast 13th Court, like back in there, why? Or is it already labeled?
Those are already low density, yeah. Okay. So they would be consistent. The other properties would be consistent with they'd have consistent comprehensive plan and zoning with them.
So we're just matching.
Yeah, we're just
like for like.
I mean, they're supposed to be consistent per state law. You're supposed to have consistency between the comp plan and the zoning. And I don't know if these were just not caught previously, or so there's an examination we're doing, and we found these kind of anomalous situations there. And I think from a development potential, it's really minimal to none, and just, you know, and it doesn't change the underlying base zoning in any case. So, there really is not much of an impact.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next one is similar, which is this one appears to me to be very much a Scrivener's error. It's highway commercial designated property by zoning. It is designated low density residential by comprehensive plan designation, and it is built out primarily as commercial development with businesses that actually are highway commercial in their nature. And those would include a Canby sign company, locksmith and auto repair, and a pump and drilling equipment supply building. And there is a home in this area, but it already is non-conforming anyway to the zoning. So it might be converted to a commercial business at some point. So that appears to us that it should have comprehensive plan designation of highway commercial to match up the zoning of highway commercial. And so the last one, which is the only kind of major change that we're addressing here, is on the left here, you can see the current comprehensive plan designation of what we're calling Area J. And that one, the first thing you'll notice is the boundary is really weird. It doesn't follow any property line boundaries. And secondly, even the current comprehensive plan calls out for a different mix of use in this area, and is fairly specific for how undefined the comprehensive plan special areas are. This one was very specific. It called out a need for 12 acres of high-density residential and a minimum of 15 acres of medium-density residential in this area. The changes that are proposed also, it's kind of a mixed area here that Jarbo's Restaurant and the property to the south that you can see through the middle of this Walnut Street extension is drawn in there. You can see the right-of-way through that, through the center there. So where Jarbo's Restaurant is, it ironically just follows that line, and the split there is that Jarbo's Restaurant would be on essentially about the north side of that road, and then the south side is the Lions property facing Highway 99. That felt appropriate to us as well to recognize that interchange as well as Jarbo's Restaurant as highway commercial. Because residential zoning would not be consistent with the restaurant that's out there that's fully developed. And so that was part of it. And then the mix of what the end result is for the changes here, it's a net of about additional 5 acres of high-density residential is proposed, and about 12 acres additional of medium-density residential that's being added, and about 8 acres of highway commercial in whole here. So this felt appropriate to us because Walnut Street Extension is also going right through there, which is a great access point. We see this as kind of a really nice opportunity to have a planned community in this area. We don't often get this opportunity to look at this kind of greenfield, more of a greenfield area to plan it out. Waller Road is going through that and providing for that mix of housing that the current comprehensive plan calls out. The changes that are made here do not diminish the acreage that we need for urban growth boundary expansion. There was a lot of discussion with Department of Land Conservation and Development. They said, we will not reduce your housing needs analysis acreage for your urban growth boundary with these changes. And this is the kind of dynamic that we have in Oregon, is that if you make a ton of changes for density in your city and you're doing an urban growth boundary, that counts against you and reduces your acreage that you need for your urban growth boundary expansion. So this does not make any changes to that, which is a positive.
So question, Don, so looking at the highway commercial on the proposed designation, is there anything that would prevent a developer from taking, if you can go back to the other one, thanks.
Okay.
Would prevent a developer or the landowners that are there to change or petition to change their medium density residential section into highway commercial, so there's that connectivity between the two highway commercial spots?
On the area in red, or are you speaking of that in specific or some area that's beyond that?
No, I'm just talking, so if you look at again, under the proposed picture, there's that red square that is now Jarbo's. Mm-hmm. So to the west of that are look like they're the individual property spots. And then you've got what I think is highway commercial in the bottom corner of that picture, correct?
And that part that's already on the edge is already that designation. So that,
right. So could a developer or anyone transition or convert the medium density into highway commercial?
There's a possibility that, and this maybe the full kind of picture here is that Polish Homes has also been part of this discussion as well about the medium density residential, and they have plans to do a development there for residential in that area that's medium density. So that's part of the dynamic. We were working with the property owners on this as well. But to answer your question, they could potentially do what you're saying, but that would more likely, because of Polish's desire, be more of a mixed density residential area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Randy?
Don, is it fair to say that entire area within the blue is going to be what we refer to as a planned unit development?
It would be
And
just.
can you explain that?
Yeah, just the
Meaning,
area.
getting to the mayor's point.
Absolutely. It's just, and just the area, yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that at least in development concept planning, and that is our goal here, is all the areas that are changing there. And this is really more concentrated on the south side of the area in blue, because the north side, we're not proposing changes to, and the east side really as much, except for the high density residential. And I think it absolutely, we want this to be planned in terms of how that all comes in together. It would make sense when this annexation comes in, and we've talked to the property owners around that discussion about how does this become a integrated, even though they may be independent, how does this become an integrated so we don't have walled off situations, and it's actually all part of a planned process, and that is the expectation. And part of this will be that Southeast First and Walnut Street and Southeast First are also going to be part of this annexation as well, and that's the city part, because those roads are not in the city now. And so there's a combined effort that would be needed here under annexation. And to your point, there would be the development concept was really essentially a master plan to answer that question. Hopefully I'm hoping that I'm answering the questions here, but there definitely is an intention to have a mix of housing and commercial here in the end.
Okay. Thank you.
And that kind of gets to the next slide, which is next steps. And so.
Second reading?
Yeah, sorry. So we have second reading, which will be on May 6th. Yes, and then the state acknowledgement process is a 21-day process post that, and then it becomes effective. And then from there, applicants can commit for annexation applications with development concept plans, and then they could go through that process as the next step. But the overall comprehensive plan would be part of that, that state acknowledgement would be for the whole comprehensive plan.
Okay. So I know that you and your team, and thank you for your work as well, have been obviously touching base and following up with the alphabet organizations that are land use boards. Are we seeing any potential landmines or pitfalls to this plan or pushback that's going to slow this up or cause us to have more changes?
I don't see that we've had folks that have come forward to be oppositional. We've been very transparent in our meetings, and in particular with the mapping parts of this. So I think it's pretty unlikely that we're going to have challenges. I think those people would be providing testimony if there was that already. You would have already heard from those folks, and we have actually received some positive commentary from the Housing Lands Advocates, which is in your packet, and the Fair Housing Council, which is in your packet, actually saying this is an example for other communities related to housing. So that probably would be the piece where people would come out and say you didn't do enough. And that we haven't heard that. DLCD has also been super supportive of this. They've been very much involved in the steps here. So I don't think the state's really going to be oppositional here on this either. And then and this kind of goes back to some conversations that Randy was having about having, we will have some legal counsel review of this as well, and that would be for, them to look at this. So that would be, if there was anything substantive that get brought up on May 6th, and that could be discussed at that point. And I think those will be minor edits, to be honest with you. I think there may be just a few items that they focus on. I don't think there's anything materially deficient. I think we would have heard from DLCD that to that extent if there was something materially deficient.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
No, that was it, yeah.
You guys are good, okay. That wasn't too bad. Well, and again, like you opened up this evening with the point of there have been a gaggle of meetings. We've had 2 different technical advisory committees working on this for several years now, going through this to get to this point. So to able to distill all that work down to 39 slides is pretty good. But it's, you know, I know we have a couple of those technical advisory committee people here, Alan being one of them, that it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of input to take in and kind of tailor this to where's Canby going to go for the next, hopefully we won't revisit this in 40 years, it'll be sooner than that, so good. Any questions? Yes, Councilor Waterman.
The work that we're doing with the SDCs and stuff, because we're not finishing that until July, right, or June?
July 1 is the hope that we'll be back before you, because there's a 60-day methodology notice that we have to do, and we're almost done with that methodology notice.
And that's a separate thing from this, so we're going to be approving this before that?
It is, yeah, and there's really no consequential issues on that piece of it for the comp plan part of that. And you all may have questions more specifically as we get to the transportation system plan, also on May 6th, because that does have, that list in the 20-year list does correspond to the 20-year list in the SDCs that you'll see in the SDC adoption.
Okay.
Any other questions on the presentation or for our planning team? 3J, nothing? Okay. All right, gentlemen, don't go far because I'm sure there'll be more.
Thank you.
All right, since there's no questions, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. First off, we'll hear from proponents of the plan, and I'll start with our Planning Commission Chair, Mr. Ellison. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Thank you for having me. I really just want to echo the support from Planning Commission to City Council for adoption of the comp plan as presented. 3 very long years of hearings and going through this process, lots of community engagement. I attended several myself. I know other planning commissioners and councilors also attended. I really feel like the messaging to our community was very solid and well coordinated, very well communicated to the community. And so many people have had opportunities to either view what the city is doing through this process, but also participate and have their voices heard in the process, which was a lot of fun, particularly early on in the process when we were engaging the community to kind of put their stamp on what they see in terms of land use in the community. So that was a great outreach project. So we unanimously, as a planning commission, recommend the adoption of this comp plan, and that's about it for me.
Great. Thank you for being here this evening, and thank you to you and the Planning Commission for all the work that you all did on your end to keep this moving forward and bring it here into the finish line. So thank you very much, and please let the Planning Commission know that we extend our appreciation as well.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Next proponent is Ethan Manuel. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, councilors, thank you for giving me a chance to come speak to you today. In addition to being a long-term Canby resident, I was, in fact, one of those founding members or original members of the Public Advisory Committee. So I got to attend all of those, and I know the mayor and Councilor Patton attended most or maybe all of those sessions with me as well, and the other people on the committee. In addition to that, I did, all of the community summits, the surveys, and that sort of stuff. I saw many of you and many of the Planning Commission at those things as well. All of that to say, I had kind of a front row seat to watch this stuff come by, right? And it's a lot of stuff. It's things you've already seen, like the housing needs analysis, the economic needs analysis, the housing production strategy, the thing you're talking about tonight, which is the comprehensive plan update, things you're talking about in the future, TSP update, and so on and so on. So there's been a lot of stuff come through this process, and I'm just here as a proponent, partly because I'm amazed that all of this stuff is getting done. You know, the city staff, the consultants, the Planning Commission, City Council, all of you guys have been intimately involved in this, and it has taken years, right? And so this is not done without a consistent effort and consistent focus on it. So I appreciate that. As you know, as you guys look at moving this stuff forward, I think that it's just important that you hear a voice from the community. Sometimes I feel like you work on these long-term projects and it comes time to approve it and it's crickets. Nobody says anything. So I just wanted you to have a chance to hear a voice from the community, supportive of it. I think Don and team and the consultants have done a great job with the community involvement. We heard from some of the consultants that the Canby's involvement was top tier in terms of the participation. I think that goes partly to the framing of the structure in terms of giving opportunities at multiple outlets for people. But also, I think that's a testament to the community that they got involved in and said their piece, and I think this plan reflects that. So I'm just here as a voice in support.
Well, I really do appreciate your involvement and support and being involved in the Technical Advisory Committee. Yeah. There's a lot of meetings, and it's very heady stuff to kind of dive into. As you can see, just tonight was a brief overview, but everything that goes into it, yeah, you and the Technical Advisory Committee had your hands on as well. So something to be proud of too, as you look at how Canby's going to grow and fill in over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So really do appreciate the feedback, and thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. All right. I don't have any opponents listed, so I will close the public hearing on that. Any additional questions for the planning department or the consultants at all? No? Okay, discussion at all? Thoughts?
Well, we won't make them start all over again?
No, we won't make them start all over again. No. Okay. No discussion. Yes, Councilor Patton, your hand was first.
Yeah, so this is huge. This is setting the roadmap for the next 20 years of this city. And the people, to be a part of this process is pretty monumental. As mentioned, I sat on the business economic needs analysis group, as well as the advisory committee for this one, and it has been an amazing process to be a part of. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Planning Commission for the many meetings that they have put into this, the community partners that have weighed in on this and been a part of creating this plan, all of the individuals that were on the various advisory committees. I want to also thank all the community members who stepped up and had a say and played a part in this future roadmap for the city, who attended all of the community summits, some more contentious than others, which was awesome to see. So many passionate people here in the city that want to see the best of the city for the next 20 years, as well as those that attended events. City staff, especially the planning department staff and 3J Consulting. But I really want to thank you, Don. You have shepherded this city through this process in a way that I don't think many other cities have been able to do. Your knowledge and expertise in this has been instrumental for us getting this not only just over the finish line, but in the time that it has been brought over the finish line, and with, from what I understand, very minimal pushback from the state, which I think is, if someone's going to go out and buy a lottery ticket tonight in hopes that they're going to win big, this is the night to do it. This is when the stars have aligned. So, as well as folks here on this dais, we have all done something extremely special here, and we should be proud of it. And I can tell you that when I'm in my 70s, well, almost 70, and this plan comes back up for renewal, I really hope that people look back at this and say, the people that did this had their heads screwed on tight. And while there was some challenges and some bumps, they really set us up for a good place for the future, and then use what we've done here as a roadmap for the next 20 years, which by then I'll be dead. So I won't have much say in the matter. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patton. Yeah, I think how it was broken down the way that it was, and each of those pieces that you went over this evening, that we were able to get in, vet them, dialogue about them, get cantankerous when we needed to on certain things, I think really is what really made this process smooth. Wasn't around in 81. I don't know what that process looked like. You can probably speak to how other communities have done it, and if it's been done in a different way. I don't know a better way than what we've done. And so, yeah, I echo Jason's thoughts as well, Don. Comment, sir?
Yeah, I just want to thank as well, Jamie, too. You put a lot of work in those community summits and in the communication, working with the community. I remember the first, one of the first ones we had, there were so many people that showed up, we literally had to turn people away because there wasn't enough room. And so do emergency reschedule. So for the community to reach out or to be involved is really important. And I appreciate that. Everything we've done the last 3 years, like you said, it wasn't just 1 or 2 plans, literally doing the whole thing in 3 or 4 years for 45 years worth of work was pretty monumental, and I know we still have a lot of work to do, so we appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm excited to see now these plans come to fruition. And so, thank you.
Yep. Councilor Davis.
Mr. Mayor, are you ready for a motion?
I am. If no one else has any other comments, then by all means.
Thank you. I move to approve ordinance number 1670, an ordinance adopting the City of Canby Comprehensive Plan and Comprehensive Plan map changes to a second reading on May 6, 2026.
Second.
A motion's been made by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Patton to approve ordinance number 1670, an ordinance adopting the City of Canby Comprehensive Plan and Comprehensive Plan map changes to a second reading on May 6, 2026. Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Great job, everyone. Thank you very, very much. It's huge. It is 5 minutes to 9, and our council goal policy state that we adjourn at 9 o'clock. We still have a number of items to go through. Is there,
I say,
what's the appetite of the council?
I move we go to 9:30, being that we started at 7:30. It's still a 2-hour meeting.
I agree.
I'd rather go home, but I guess.
So you're a no on continuing? Okay.
There's not much. We can probably do it in a half hour.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Recover from taxes.
That's what I say, it's April 15th.
don't you go on vacation?
Sparkling cider at home.
I was gonna say, don't you go on vacation tomorrow? All right. So we'll extend our meeting until 9:30 and then reassess from there. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. There is no other business, mayor business. Walnut Street, if you are familiar with the Walnut Street property or plan or project or whatever you want to call it.
No idea what you're talking about.
No, yeah, we've only been talking about it. There's not any walnuts anymore because Canby X has gone through and carved it all the way through and has done a lot of work in a very short amount of time. So if you haven't gone over and seen it, do a drive-by. It's pretty cool. On the Clackamas County coordinating front, our last meeting was really heavy duty on workforce development and kind of where Clackamas County is at on looking ahead to attracting companies, and do we have the workforce to be able to do that, and how is AI changing workforce, and what do we need to be able to be doing as a county and individual cities moving forward on that front. And so we also discussed our county, the coordinating committee retreat. Again, counselors, you are invited to come up and be a part of that. If you want to get into things like housing, workforce, and transportation. So that'll be a very busy day and a half. So then it is June 5th and 6th. And it's up at Welch's and Mount Hood. So Teresa and Maya have the information, and they can send it out if you want. In fact, Teresa, will you just send that information out to the council? Thank you. And then finally, the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation. We had a very, how did you call those meetings that were held in the community for the comp plan? Spirited?
There were some that were very spirited.
Okay, so we'll say that this one was very spirited because Oregon Department of Transportation and the Oregon Transportation Commission have changed how funding is going to be allocated for transportation projects. And so our task in this was to whittle down basically 30 projects within our area, and then, and so bring it down, whittle it from 30 to 5. And it got really kind of cantankerous because part of the group wanted to move forward 3 projects that were specific, which was what our task was. But they also, instead of doing 5, they did 3, and then they wanted to address and put forward what they called buckets. So projects, a multitude of projects within a certain category. And so that created a lot of conversation and consternation because there were other projects that were moved off the list, mostly for, 1 for Clackamas County and then 2 for Hood River. And so it just created a whole mess of issues and conversation. But so, and you got ODOT funding and OTC, but the big ones are being I-205 expansion, which is generally, not generally, but impacts us on making sure that that moves forward in an expansion, which creates a whole nother conversation about Abernathy Bridge and lane expansion and tolling potentially still on a conversation piece down at the state. So a ton more to come up here as the long session is not too far away, and that will be hashed about very dramatically for sure when that occurs. So that's all that I've got. We will start with councilor comments and liaison reports. And we'll start with Council President Hensley this evening.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You already covered C4, Traffic Safety Commission. There was a lot of chatting about red light runners, U-turners, and speeding around the Fairgrounds Triangle. So watch how you're driving out there, folks. We're going to be talking about some more enforcement issues on those areas. They're gone, but thank you again to Michelle and Jackie for coming in about the coalition. We are still looking for more partners. So if you know organizations, stakeholders, et cetera, that can help, because we have more parents' nights to plan, et cetera, so that'd be great. Canby Suicide Prevention Task Force is planning QPR training, and that will be mid-May. We're trying to nail down the details, so I'll have more on the May 6th meeting. And I have a proposal for the council. Do you want it now or after the rest of the comments?
No, it's your time, so.
Okay, well, in our earlier meeting, we had some discussions about, in the work session meeting, about some things that maybe we want to address. as far as the legal goes. And so I would like to make a motion that we issue a blanket waiver for the regular business meeting and let the city administrator go over the agenda, and if there's a public hearing or some kind of new business that needs legal attention, that we invite them back.
Second.
So a motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Patton to provide a blanket excuse of legal counsel dependent on agenda items as reviewed by city administrator. Does that work? Any further comment on that or discussion?
So this would work like the attorney won't come unless invited, or is that?
That's correct.
That's what the.
And that's what Emily was talking about before.
Okay, so you'll still come when invited, right?
Of course. Okay. And executive sessions and all, so I'm talking about the regular business meetings.
If I may, the reason it's kind of being worded like this is because technically in the city charter, we as a council make the decision whether legal counsel should or shouldn't be here, not the city administrator. So by us giving a blanket waiver and leaving and authorizing Randy as city administrator to make that decision, it essentially fills that loophole in the charter.
Okay, because in the past, and you've mentioned that you've excused the attorney for meetings, but without this kind of vote. But that just was
I would
kind of
ask
sketchy.
I was asking the mayor in the past.
Okay, so the mayor but that wasn't really enough legality or whatever. Or?
Oh, you're right. The charter does have the city attorney and city administrator as the employee, if you will, of the council. But that's just, I only remember one time that had happened. So we're trying to make it easier for everyone by doing this motion now.
So it just kind of flips around the order. So versus going meeting by meeting to determine whether or not having our legal representation here, we're flipping it so that it then becomes more about if there's a warrant, they're just excused unless we need them there.
So I think we're good enough to be without the attorney. I've always.
She brought it up in the work session.
Oh, I know. But I've always found that having legal advice at the beginning is much cheaper than needing it after.
For sure.
The incident happens, because no one's there to say, hold on, maybe we shouldn't do this when we're doing something at the meeting. And so my concern on that is that we'd be subject to having to hire the attorney to clean up things that otherwise wouldn't necessarily need to be cleaned up because we were allowed to carry on and do something that somebody who knew better would have said, hold on.
No, I mean, that's a fair argument for sure.
And so I'm wondering if we, by doing this, we are, in order, to penny wise and pound foolish, as they say, to do it this way. And I just do that as much, even though I sometimes disagree with what the attorney says. As you saw in the work session meetings, I still respect what they say. And yeah.
Okay. Councilor Davis.
I feel real comfortable with our interim city administrator making decisions as to when legal representation is necessary, and/or I'm sure Emily's going to be looking at our agenda and can talk to the city administrator as well. So, and even the other gentleman, which is Curtis. Chad basically said that even Hillsborough, which is a very large city, many times they don't have a city attorney present. So I'm comfortable
and they
with it.
represent Malala, and they're never there either. So,
Councilor Waterman.
Yeah, so I think that the attorneys are still going to be a part of reviewing the agenda. So it's not like we're not going to have a blind thing. And also, we could always stop and say we're not going to make a decision until we get further information, as well as I lost my train of thought, but I think.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and also, they did say they usually block that out.
And
So if there's something came up, I'm sure Teresa could get Emily on the horn right in the same meeting and be like, hey, we have a question after all.
Yeah, and also I'm sure we can, if something comes up where enough counselors are like, or we say we have some, we really like them to be there, I'm sure we can accommodate that as well. It's not like we're going to be left hanging.
For sure. Councilor Patton.
Yeah, I think what this is going to come, I understand where you're coming from, Councilor Stearns. I have a little consternation in doing this as well. But I think that we as a council can police, like if someone makes a crazy motion, we are sentient enough to kind of like put a pin in that and move it to a different time. And because this isn't like an ordinance or something, it can very easily be undone. Like if we find that it is a problem, we can easily undo it.
Yeah, we can be like, just kidding.
So we're going to have to watch so we don't go too far off script. Because, I mean, it's during this time where I say wacky things when it's my turn to talk that would have the most danger of doing wacky things. Wacky things.
Or if Councilor Patton does. I mean, it's a yin and yang kind of thing.
Do that.
Jim will cut your microphone there and start kicking you.
Just push the button.
So motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Sure, aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? None? Okay, that motion carries 6-0 then.
Okay, and finally, after that discussion earlier, I feel that the little subcommittee, myself, Councilor Patton, Councilor Davis, maybe have another meeting to review council policies on engaging legal.
Councilor Stearns.
No, he's the charter one.
Policies.
Oh, policies, yeah.
I'm a charter guy.
He's the charter
I don't do
guy.
policies.
Davis was the policy guy. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there if you all want to have a meeting sooner rather than later. So we can address that. Because when that came up, we kind of realized we didn't address that. And so I think it should be, we need to talk about an amendment that we would bring forward to you guys, of course, like next time. Are you nods? Consensus? Jim? Okay, cool. Maya was kind of, so if we could get that on the calendar with Maya and Emily, and she usually just sends out a little doodle poll is what day works for all of us. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got it.
I will say if we can look out like 3 weeks, because I'm going to be out of town for the next 3 weeks. So if you want to rob my home, now you know.
Now you know. Good job.
Good luck making your way through all Christmas decorations.
An elf might hit you over the head with the candy cane, but you know, try your luck.
Councilor Patton, your report.
You know, I had a really lengthy report last week, so I kind of crawl under a rock this week. I was out traveling through the beautiful state, Eastern and Oregon and Washington last week. I did want to say I'm sorry for missing kudos to you, Jamie. You also had a huge part in all of those meetings and stuff and coordinate all that, which is great. And then I guess one last thing I will just mention. So I live on North Birch Street, so now you're getting a little closer to being able to rob my house. There is a white truck that has taken to doing its, running a little fast and using the speed humps as little ramps. Just so you know, gardening season is coming, and sometimes I get startled. And my hand tiller or my garden trowel or rake will just fly out of my hand. So be prepared if you're speeding on North Birch Street, you might get whacked with a garden implement or a plant or something, who knows. So
okay, is
that's
Emily
that.
Here?
I'm totally taking full responsibility for my actions in that as a private citizen, not as a city councilor. And so with that, I conclude my comments for the evening.
That's probably good.
Councilor Maldonado?
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Park and Rec. Randy will be coming to our next meeting to discuss Maple Street Park and some plans for for additional parking in Maple Street Park. Everybody will recall we had that discussion, and the Park and Rec Committee has been waiting for this, so I appreciate Randy moving this project forward. Looking forward to him presenting those plans to the Park and Rec Committee. We are going to have some discussion later about the park maintenance fee, Dodds Farm Park. We have not seen a name for that yet, but that eventually, hopefully, will be coming to our next Park and Rec Committee and then on to the City Council for approval. I did speak to Randy about this interim city administrator about the speeding on the bike trails with these e-bikes and scooters and everything else. I mean, it's ridiculous. And not only on the bike trail, but around town, up and down South Pine, I can speak to. I encourage parents to know what their kids are doing, because going 40 to 50 miles an hour down a residential street without helmets on is not a very safe thing to be doing, and somebody's going to get hurt. But especially now I understand what people are talking about, almost getting hit on the bike trail, because my daughter and I almost got hit the other day on a young man who was going about 40 miles an hour on a electric, some kind of electric scooter or bike. So please be careful out there, but I'm anxious to see what Happy Valley comes up with their ordinance that we can adopt here, because it is a big problem and it's a change. So we are interviewing for a vacant position on the Park and Rec Board. Brian Oliver, Maxwell, and myself have interviewed a few people. We have our last one on Thursday at 2 o'clock, and we'll make a recommendation to the Park and Rec Committee and then on to the City Council to fill that position. The Canby Adult Center, the May 16th, there's going to be a work party for that picnic area from the Rotary. That's the President Rotary, Jim Hunziger's project of cleaning up and painting that area as done by Rotary. They have hired a person to work on the campaign committee to receive funds for the Canby Adult Center and the new facility. And Lynn Bonnell, those that know Lynn has been in charge of the programs for driving and activities and taking senior citizens to Europe and all over the place. Lynn is retired after 14 years, so good for Lynn. And they do have a new person in charge of the bus driving up at the adult center now. And they actually have 2 new qualified bus drivers up there as well. And they still plan on the beginning of 2027 for the move-in date, which is good because things continue to break down at the old facility and cost them money. So I did have just one question. Have we heard anything on the joint meeting with the Canby School District Board?
I did receive a phone call from the superintendent extending the offer to meet. I did return her call, but she's very busy, so we are trying to connect on that. And I left a voicemail for the mayor as well after receiving said call.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the answer is yes.
Yes,
but
we are working on it. Their focus for the school board right now is
the levy.
So,
yeah.
So it probably won't be till we get through that. So in the next, we'll know in the next couple of weeks what we can schedule.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Okay. Councilor Stearns.
Fortunately, I wasn't able to go to the Canby Utility Board meeting last night. It's been pretty busy at work. And I'll be less busy going forward. But my understanding is that the water rates are going up in preparation for what we heard about before, the water treatment plant, which is not going to be cheap. That's pretty much all I have to report, but I do want to piggyback a little bit on what they're talking about, the bikes on the logging trail. And I think that if we do an ordinance, we need to work on an ordinance to keep at least the 40-mile-per-hour bikes and devices off the sidewalks as well. Nothing quite like being almost run over on a sidewalk. As somebody who commutes on foot regularly, my personal opinion is anything that goes 40 miles per hour should be on the street, not on the sidewalk. And I would say like bikes should be off the sidewalk except for maybe under 10 or something, or under 12 years old or something like that for the little kids. But I think that Canby needs to have something that keeps the vehicles off the sidewalks.
I know that the
Throw rake.
state law
Throw rake?
is anyone 16 and below they're supposed to be wearing a helmet, and e-bikes are limited to 20 miles an hour. Anything above that is special permitted.
But as far as going on the sidewalks, I want to.
Yeah,
bikes.
anything above 20 miles an hour is not supposed to be on sidewalks or in the bike
20
lanes.
miles an hour is still too much for sidewalk,
Really?
right?
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I just.
Throw a couple of rakes. They'll get the idea.
Well, I mean, if you stick the rake into the spokes of the wheels.
Doesn't do a good job.
All right. Anything else, Counselor Stearns?
That's it.
Not murder, just silent maintenance.
Counselor Waterman?
Yeah, so the Bike and Ped Committee was very excited to get feedback from Randy about that. That has been one of the e-bikes has been a very passionate project for them as well. And so they're excited to hear about how that works out with the, libraries next week, so I don't have anything on that. The other thing I just want to bring up was I was at the statewide cybersecurity summit today down in Corvallis. About 80 organizations from across the state in the tabletop training exercise. They had, the FBI was there, state, local counties, et cetera. In small world, gentleman sat down at the table across from me, and it happened to be Mark, our Canby Utility Finance Manager, who was attending the cybersecurity summit, which was really encouraging. And then the table behind me was the Canby School District. Okay. So it's nice to know and to see the community being involved in taking seriously our cybersecurity and protecting our data. And so
I would love to send staff to something like that.
Yeah, so I could send you some information on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and that is all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move into city administrator business and staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It is 9:19, so I can try and paint this picture until 9:30 on our parks maintenance fee. Which, so first of all, you all are very well versed on the Parks Department that you run and how it nests under the general fund. And obviously, globally speaking, you all are liaisons to certain committees, and Councilor Davis is the liaison to Parks and Rec Committee. We have a Parks and Rec Committee member here tonight with us. Thanks to him for attending. The Parks and Rec Committee has been talking for some time now about getting some greater clarity in our parks maintenance fee policy and procedures, code, that is. And I'm elevating that tonight for further direction from the council. And just wanted to paint a quick picture of your parks maintenance fee, which was put in place in 2017 by many of you who were on the council. And it was further amended to sunset at the end of next year, so by the council. So it does have a shot clock on it, but it also came with some guidelines, and we're looking to define some of those guidelines. The Parks and Rec Committee has sort of thrown a flag on the field, calling the question, are we doing this right? And so, as you know, when the Parks Department nested in the general fund without a parks maintenance fee, you were trying to take care of all your parks with property tax dollars, which was competing with police and court and planning and all the other units that go under your general fund here at the City of Canby. So once you put that in, as you can see on this screen, you started generating a parks maintenance fee to help cover, in the spirit, M&S, materials and services, and your parks department and personnel. So this current year, we're budgeted to receive about $570,000, as you can see, to help cover your parks costs. Don't focus too much on the transfers from the SDC fund. Long story short there, for parks SDCs, you're paying for the Auburn project this year, at $1.745 million. And we have some projects that we'll be proposing in the upcoming budget as well. But basically, all of your revenue, we don't really do park rentals in Canby. You can see only $1,000, year to date, $550. We rely on that parks maintenance fee. Next slide. And thanks to Teresa for doing this. Next slide is personnel in the parks budget. And there is a number, if I can read that, is that a 6? 693. There you go, $693,050 of labor, okay, through our Public Works Department to take care of your Parks Department, which is exceeding the total value of the parks maintenance fee right off the top. Next slide. Materials and services in your parks budget. Bottom line there, rolled up, is $319,984. And so you're at about $1 million to run a parks department, and you're only bringing in $570,000, okay, in parks maintenance fee. The Parks and Recs Committee has called the question, can we tighten up how the Parks Maintenance Fund dollars are spent? Okay. Much like your street maintenance fee, you have some roadmap parameters on that street maintenance fee that's specifically line itemed out for just that. Very transactional. Comes in and goes out in one line item. Here we have a lot of line items and we have labor. So the question that the Parks and Rec Commission and then there's another question, is would the council like to direct staff to tighten up the expense, the revenue and expense of the parks maintenance fee to go into a certain line item and cover certain maintenance items in the Parks Department, not all, and a percentage of labor, not all. Okay, so that could be like, all right, we're only going to cover with the parks maintenance fee 30% of labor with every dollar. So some parameters to be put around how much. Now, recognizing you do need labor to spread the bark dust and to fix the playground equipment to a certain extent, but maybe more of that could be covered by your general fund. Do I have another slide? This is the capital SDCs. You can see Auburn Farms. This is not part of the story we're telling tonight on the maintenance with the parks maintenance fee, but this just tells you how much money you spent on Auburn Farms year to date, year to date.
Well, sorry to interrupt. I do think it does tell a part of the story because, if we've got,
you're right,
unexpended through, $3 million in capital, and that's in a holding pattern because we can we maintain what we've got before we start adding in more?
Yeah. It also paints a good picture because that $1 million for Maple Park right there that you see, it's not SDC money, that's general fund money. So I missed a whole segment here at the beginning of, back in 2017, you guys anchored on a number that your previous city administrator, Mr. Rick Robinson, said, thou shalt contribute at least that much money going forward. And last year, we kind of dipped under that a little bit. There was a lot of budget cutbacks, a lot of constraints that are going on, if you can recall last year's budget. So that, I think it was around $70,000, $80,000. Denise has done a lot of work on this for us, to uncovering that. So again, it's a matter of, do you count capital or not when you're talking about a general fund contribution? And that's new information that we just, as staff, talked about. But, so that's the story. And we're here tonight to just get some direction on, and I know Counselor Davis might want to help fill in the picture that I'm trying to describe here with, do you want to put some constraints on how we spend the parks maintenance fee money, like the street maintenance fund? And should we backfill the 80,000 that was missed last budget year? And that's an approximation. It's in your packet there, how much exactly it was, as part of our work this fiscal year.
Yeah, thanks, Randy, and you summarized it real well.
Thank you.
Did a really good job summarizing that. And I know it is an interest of the Park and Rec Committee that we clean this up, you know. And so to answer your question, I would say, yes, I'd have staff or yourself move forward with cleaning that up as you spoke to the street maintenance fee in regards to, and then present that to the Park and Rec Committee, receive input from the Park and Rec Committee, and make sure that we're in what they're asking for, and then bring that back to council with the input from the Park and Rec Committee. But I think it is time that we clean it up, and then before the renewal, if the council does renew this again, when it sunsets or before it sunsets, I've made a number of notations that I think we should clean up in the ordinance as well, moving forward, so that's spelled out, because it's not real clear. We're operating on a memorandum from Rick Robinson, who did a tremendous job in moving this forward, but we didn't really clean it up and put out the guidelines. So I think that that's what I'd recommend to the rest of the council anyway.
Yes, Council President Hensley.
Thank you. My question is actually for Councilor Davis. Do you know what line items the park maintenance or the Park and Rec Board is wishing that the street maintenance fee paid for? Which line items? I mean, what do they want to see that go to? Do we already know this, or is this something we need to flesh out with them first?
We need to flesh that out with the Park and Rec Committee. And get some specifics, but the leadership, I think, of Randy coming and talking to them about that, will be able to clean that up.
Okay. Well, I would then be for, I mean, especially since we're going into budget season, we're going to want to know how much they're going to want out of the general fund. It would be good information to have, and have him say, you know, they want us to pay for these things with the maintenance fee, and this would be coming out of general fund. It would be good information, what that would look like before we get into the budget season, so.
And Jim, I don't know if you would like to come up and say anything from the Park and Rec Committee? Come on up, Jim. Come on up. And I would like to introduce Jim. Jim has he ran our last meeting. He's kind of the co-chair. Brian Oliver is the chair now of the Park and Rec Committee. But we have had some discussions, so I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add.
No, not specifically. I don't think we have line items that we're looking for at the moment. I think the Park and Recs Committee needs to decide that. I think in the spirit of the ordinance when it was written, I think there's a lot of questions about that, like what it was really meant for, because the general fund was paying for parks. And then the ordinance was brought in, the parks maintenance fee, to bring maintenance up, right? And I guess that's the question is maintenance where it needs to be, so we can build new parks, so we can continue to build neighborhood parks for people and make this a great community where we have these parks and different facilities for everybody, like Maple Street Park and the different ones. And I think Randy brought up the point, the city administrator brought it up that there was a kind of a baseline that was put in there in the ordinance that the general fund should be putting in. And this last year it really fell short. And so I think that was one of the questions the parks had too, was like, if that falls short, we're going to rely on the parks maintenance fee a lot more to do a lot more of the work, and it can sunset and you guys not renew it. I mean, there's a lot of things a lot of questions in the air. And so I think that needs to be fleshed out as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, sorry, let me.
Feverishly writing notes.
Yeah. Okay. Councilor Stearns, go ahead.
I think one of the things that kind of in the spirit of what you're talking about, that needs to be made clear is oftentimes these funds are created and people confuse them a additional funding source with a guaranteed funding source. I think this happened when we did the library levy. Everybody thought the library would get more money, but what really happened a lot of it, I was on the budget committee after that passes, that, oh, now they have a funding source, and so the general fund doesn't need to put in as much anymore. And so you end up with a situation where there isn't any more money available for parks, but there's more money available for other things. And so if we are, I think, are wise and we want the park maintenance fee to be an additional funding source, we need to have something in the ordinance that's very clear that this is to add to, but not to supplant the what's coming from the general fund. Otherwise, and I see this all the time with, the lottery funds for the schools, everything else. It's all, the state just says, oh, we're not putting more money in, we're just have another funding source so we can have money to put in under other projects. And that, I think, that's a policy issue. We need to settle that right away. Is this a guaranteed funding source or is this an additional funding source?
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Patton.
So as you go to the Parks Board, I will just say a couple of things. Park maintenance fee, money should go towards park maintenance. It should not go towards administrative fees or tech fees or anything like that. So what I would like to see is the conversation steered towards those funds going towards those sort of things. And if the goal is to clean that language up and memorialize it, then I would also advocate for, the only reason the street maintenance fee money is put in to things related to street maintenance between the curbs and down is because I'm ornery and I'm the one that complains about it all the time and watches it. So I would say that needs to be memorialized, considered being memorialized as well. When it comes to the $80,000 minimum thing, I am not aware of any other departments or funds or anything like that other than the our goal to have a minimum of 20% reserve in the general fund. I am unaware of any of those other ones having a minimum fund amount. And I hear people talk a lot about unfunded mandates, and to me that sounds like an unfunded mandate, that we are going to have to take money from some other fund to hit the $80,000 minimum for parks. So I would be a proponent for stripping that out entirely. If the parks gets that sort of thing, then shouldn't the library get that sort of thing? And shouldn't, tech and so on and so forth. So I would be a proponent of seeing that mandate stripped out completely.
So we want to, you're proposing a new policy or changing that policy prior to the budget this year?
Yes.
So the current 80,000 that we didn't fund, that we took out of last year, don't backfill it.
Where's it going to come from?
Yeah.
If we're budgeting to a 20% for this fiscal year, and we were essentially right at that limit for last year, I have no clue where that $80,000 is going to come from. So I would say, it's not necessarily a memorial,
Was that 80,000 in an ordinance, or that was just a memorandum that was done by?
That was just strictly what that.
I think it was in an email.
Yeah, it was taken out in the budget last year.
No, but I'm talking about the goal of having that a certain.
Oh, that was a memo back in 2017.
But it was a memo, wasn't part of the ordinance or part of the city code or anything.
Can I maybe shed some light on that? Within the ordinance, it says in your ordinance, it says that it's the general fund should not go below a certain level. And that was the level of 2016, 2017, something like that. And this year's budget for this year is lower than that. So it's in the ordinance. So I don't know how that works. I mean,
yeah. We can look at that. I appreciate the discussion tonight. I know we're past.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys listening to this.
Thank you very much.
I think I have council consent direction to do some research and go back to parks and then come back here.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, does that sound?
Yep, and I'd be more than happy to work on it with you too, Randy.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other?
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like consensus is, yeah.
Yeah.
March forward.
Thank you.
Do you have any other items, Randy?
I yield my time tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any additional citizen input? I think Lee wants to go home. No, nobody's rushing to the podium. Teresa, action review?
You approved the consent agenda. You adopted ordinances 1666, 1667, and 1668. You approved ordinances 1669 and 1670 to a second reading on May 6, 2026. You approved a motion to issue a blanket waiver to legal counsel to attend city council meetings pending items reviewed by the city administrator. There was consensus to schedule a council policy subcommittee meeting regarding contacting legal counsel, and a consensus to go back to the Parks and Rec Committee to discuss the park maintenance fee.
Busy evening. Perfect. Thank you, Teresa. If there's no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there moved and seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Canby, we are adjourned. Good night. See you. We have 3 weeks.